All right, we are live here finally. Took us a minute. 'Cause, we're just watching the Saints absolutely stink it up. What a performance so far, Calvin.
Yeah, man. You know, I come I come back from practice after the coach was real hard on us. Very important game this week, and he was really real with us, and said some things. And no one's really happy right now. Um, and then I have to get in the locker room, check my phone. We're down 10-7. I come in at about eight, maybe about 8, 7, 6 minutes. Probably too far. Probably about 4 minutes in. 4 minutes left, I should say, into the second quarter. They're driving. The Chiefs are. Um, I'm like, 10-7 isn't bad. I go check my fantasy team. Chris Olave has 1.4 points. I said, that's concerning. Then I look at Mason Tipton having more targets. Now look at Rashid having more targets. And then I check out Kamara's numbers on my fantasy team. He has 3 points. And I'm sitting here like, what the hell are we doing? And then I have to watch the Chiefs. When I'm walking outside to go to the car, I have to watch them convert on a fucking second and 34. They went from second and 34 to fourth and goddamn one. And I'm like, hmm. Turns out Travis Kelsey, um, he's back from the dead. Pretty sure I said something last week about Travis Kelsey's going to rise from the dead and then die again right after this week. Because there is no better team if you're a tight end. Hell, they can have you out there. They can have me out there at tight end. And we're both probably going to get 100 yards each just because we got TE next to our name if we're playing the Saints. And it's mind boggling watching Kareem Hunt right now look like goddamn Marshawn Lynch when Kareem Hunt has been on the couch eating chicken wings up until like last week. He's been cut by the Browns, who are the epitome of dog shit. Fuck dog pound. It's dog shit over there. And then I have to watch Juju Smith Schuster. I guess it's fucking 2017 again. I guess he's back on the Steelers because we're making him look like he's paired up with Antonio Brown again. Like he's finna go do a TikTok on the 50-yard line again. And I'm like, why why does the Saints defense do this to me? Why do the Saints defense when everything should go their way? Okay, you're playing a Chiefs team that's struggled a little bit these last few weeks against teams they should not be struggling against, and they don't have their wide receiver one. They don't have their running back one. All they have is a tight end who's been looking dead as hell all year, and a fast guy who just really knows how to run straight. So you're sitting here telling me that as a defensive coordinator, you're not licking your goddamn chops. You're like, I'm finna lock this down. I have Marshawn Lattimore. I have Demario Davis. Now, don't get me wrong, Pete Werner isn't playing. Well, I didn't know Pete Werner made this much of a goddamn difference to where I'm looking at Kareem Hunt with damn near 80 yards rushing in the third quarter. And I'm looking at Travis Kelsey have season goddamn highs. And I seen Will Harris go down.
Ah,
I'm
and
like,
here goes Paulson Adebo.
oh, I didn't see the play yet. Well, let's see what he got going on. Of course.
Paulson Adebo
Ha!
strikes again.
Pause and Debo, everybody. Clap your hands. Um, he's gonna look around, act like, oh, I didn't do anything. Well, there you go. Once again,
Honestly, that's a bit of a soft penalty because I think the ball was uncatchable, but I mean, come on. Every time.
I'm trying to figure out why do teams just allow not teams, but why do the refs just allow pass interferences when the damn receiver just falls down? Like,
Yeah, I mean
all right, bro.
when you'll see the replay on the other angle when they show from behind, you can kind of see the clear pull by Adebo, but I mean that's not a ball that you need to be doing that on. That was he wasn't. I know he's fast, but I don't think he was getting to that ball. And I mean, it's just every week with Adebo, it seems like he'll make these great plays on the ball, sure, but it's like you said, he gets targeted a ton because he lets receivers get open. But I want to go back to something else you said about the target share, and I mean you can see it right now on the stats that we have pulled up. I need to refresh the scoreboard, but like we need another receiver, and I know Devonte Adams has been linked here. My feelings have been very mixed with that because on the one hand, we need another receiver. We and he's the perfect profile for what we need. We need a guy who can get open on intermediate routes, who can move the chains for us, and just be that target. Because you see, our number two guy right now is Shaheed. He's great as a deep threat, as you saw with that touchdown earlier. But when he's your number two look and Mason Tipton's your number three look, those aren't guys that you want getting these contested balls over the middle of the field. As you see, whenever Shaheed has to make a contested catch, it's a drop. So we really just need a guy, and Devonte Adams could be that, but he's also older. He's also on a huge contract. Like his cap hit spikes up to like $40 million the next 2 years or something crazy like that. So it would really set back our salary cap again, making us have to do gymnastics. But I mean, I think whether it may not be him, but oh gee, okay, we stopped that. I thought that the Chiefs were about to score on another wacky ass play, but I think whether or not the Saints make a move for a receiver, whether it's Adams or whoever it is, it's kind of like the Bills right now. It'll tell how invested they are into this season because it's a clear need. It's somewhere that could be upgraded, but it's I mean, it's tough trading for Adams with I don't think his interest is going to be as much as it's all being hyped up to be right now. I think a lot of that's a bit media driven, but he's a good receiver. That contract, it depends on how much the Raiders are willing to bite on.
You know, I do wrestle with the idea of Devonte Adams. I did have a tweet, and it did numbers, and it was everything is lining up too perfectly for Devonte Adams to be a Saint, which is exactly why he won't be a Saint because that's just how this operates. Now, it was nice to see the news that the Saints were the most aggressive team. Now, whether that means anything, probably not. But the Raiders aren't going to get what they're asking for. They're asking for a second round pick and another pick or another player, and they don't want to pay any of that salary whatsoever. I don't see any team doing that. So now you have the combination of Devontae wants to get out of here this week. He wants to be gone from the Raiders
Oh, hold
this
up.
week.
Sorry to interrupt, but if you're behind, you are about to see an absolutely crazy play right now. I'm waiting
All
for
right.
Calvin to
Well,
see it
there it
before I
is.
spoil
Why is Bink running with this bitch?
it.
What is
Let's go.
Bink?
That is exactly what we needed right there because a touchdown here and this game was 100% over. Instead, I mean, that's just being at the right place at the right time. But, I mean, what a run back. I mean, that's got to be the fastest that he has ever moved in his entire life.
Well, actually, I got a little anecdotal story about Kalen Saunders. So, for those who don't know, right, I'm up in school right now in Missouri. I'm about an hour and a half outside of KC. One of uh, he he actually said he met Kalen Saunders when he played with the Chiefs a couple times because he would go to the rec center to play basketball, and Kalen Saunders would be there playing basketball. And that's probably one of the most athletic dudes I have ever met. He up in there dunking, he moving fast as hell, and he's strong as hell. And I'm like, the Kalen Saunders? We talking about Bink, the little short, little chubby? He's like, nah, bro. He's an athlete. For real, for real. So that was cool to hear that about Bink. And there you go right there seeing Bink with the Jets. The man took the ball in the end zone and ran for like 35 yards as a D tackle. Now that's impressive. Shout out to Big Man.
Shout
But
out. But shout out that play because that is exactly what we needed. I mean, if the Chiefs score a touchdown right there, I think this game is over. I don't see our offense, especially with how they're playing and especially with how good the Chiefs' defense is. I don't see our offense being able to come back from that deficit. While I mean, I think if they score a touchdown there, they're going to get at least another field goal or two beyond that. But this is where we got to see: are we going to be a good team? Are we going to go drive down the field here, score a touchdown, and take the momentum? Or is it going to be another one of those drives that stall out because we try and run it to the right twice and then take a shot on third down or on any other down to not open receiver? We'll see what the Saints have to do, but um, sorry about that. But
man, that's
that,
excellent, man. But back to Adams. I, I would love Devontae Adams on this team if we get it for the right price. And I know I'm the biggest person that always comes up here and says you need to make a direction. You need to show me a direction. I don't like purgatory. I'm okay if you go all in and you fail. I'm okay if you sell everything and still lose. I'm okay because at least you're showing me a direction you want to go. So you can't sit here and tell me. And it's like what you said, right? It's just where the coaches think the team is, and the other side of it's like catch 22, right? I don't want the team falling into this folly and this fallacy that, oh yeah, we're a contending team. So we're gonna make contending moves when we are still very, 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 very behind the eight ball in terms of contending teams. I mean, this is a contending team that we put the Chiefs in our little tier list, right, last week as contenders. And we don't look particularly great, And this is a weaker Chiefs team, missing guys. And you can say we're missing guys. We are. We're missing hella guys. And I don't know. I think that the coaches believe that this team is a contending team. They have to, right? I mean, Dennis Allen has to know this is probably his last year if he fails. So go all out. And I'm okay with that. What's up with
yeah,
all these Rashid Shaheed targets? What's going on here?
well,
Where's Olave? Please.
that is why. look look at Saunders with the oxygen mask after that run, but no, this is why I was saying we need another receiver because Shaheed, like when you see how many targets he's getting, if Olave is not open, Shaheed's your number two guy right there. You don't have, I mean, we don't really have a receiving threat tight end. Jawan Johnson's kind of that, but he's not an elite threat. I mean, I think he can be good, but we don't have a number two receiver. Shaheed's weird because he's very talented, but he's a lot like Xavier Worthy for the Chiefs. It's a very specific role. So you see now, Rashee Rice has gone down, but Worthy's still not getting a ton more targets because his role is what his role is. It's going to be taking these deep shots and it's going to be getting him out in the space where he can run with the ball. It's not going to be making contested catches, as that's not what his strong suit is. Shaheed is very similar in that regard, where you want to get him in space, give him space to run after the catch, or let him catch a deep bomb. The problem is we don't have anyone else to throw the ball to besides Olave. So he is our bona fide number two on the depth chart, and we're using him like a number two. He's done pretty well with that, but that's why we just need a guy who can make those contested catches, do like the intermediate routes. We want just someone who will get open on short to intermediate routes. Basically, we just want Michael Thomas to come back in his prime. I think Devontae Adams could definitely do that for us, but it's not even what we give up capital wise that I'm concerned about, because if he's good enough, then I'm fine with it. It's his contract. He's getting older, and I don't want to be stuck with a giant contract for 2 years that we'll probably have to restructure to get under the cap, end up giving him another year on that of his salary cap being against us. And so what? We'll still be paying Adams 3 years from now, potentially. Is he going to be worth it by then? I don't know. So we need to get a
I
first down
think
here, but we need. What really needs to happen is it needs to be one of those deals where we give maybe some kind of decent compensation, but in return, the Raiders take on a chunk of his salary. So it's a lot more palatable when we're trying to restructure his deal. Because the way his contract is structured, it's heavily backloaded. So it kicks up from like a 15, $20 million cap hit to a $40 million cap hit around for the next 2 years. So that's the thing with how the Saints manage their cap. You don't want to be taking on a number like that since you're going to have to restructure it.
You know, I think you really hit the nail on the head there, and that just goes into really what I mean. Look, even this is kind of like the Antonio Brown situation. I mean, it's different because Antonio Brown wasn't asking for hella money, but I thought it was a very large mistake for Sean Payton to let his ego get in the way and not sign Antonio Brown. And turns out, right, he goes to a division rival and wins the Super Bowl that same year. Now imagine if Tom Brady didn't have Antonio Brown that year. I don't think they win. Imagine if we had him instead of Jared Cook. Would that play would have happened where Jared Cook fumbles and we basically lose all momentum and end up losing the game? I don't think it would. The butterfly effect of that decision was crazy.
I don't know. I
And
mean, the Tom Brady had plot armor that year, so they would have still found a way.
but I like that we're at least trying, and I like that they're showing me a direction. You're telling me, okay, we want to make these win now moves. All right, fine, I can live with that. Now, do I agree with win now moves when you have Derek Carr as quarterback? No, I still don't really trust the guy because right. I mean, you're showing me when he has to have the ball in his hands and make something happen, it's not going to go well. Um, so I mean, but to be honest, if it wasn't for Derek Carr, we wouldn't even be in the running for Devontae Adams because Devontae Adams wants to play with Aaron Rodgers or Derek Carr. Derek Carr was his college teammate. Um, so I mean, he went to the Raiders purely for Derek Carr, and Derek Carr leaves, and now he's looking here. So I mean, it'll be nice. I think a trade happens this week. I think the Raiders come up off that horse that they're on right now because that horse is way, way, way too high. Um, Asking for a second and a player, or a second and another pick, and for the other team to take all the salary, that I don't see that happening. Obviously, even if we do get Devontae Adams, he's not going to be here on this contract. I think he'll be okay with restructuring his contract or getting a new contract entirely, but that would, of course, mean that the Raiders will have to eat the salary, which I don't think they'll do. But I think a restructure will happen, and then I guess maybe you'll see Alvin Kamara get extended. I guess that's really the only way this can get done. Um, I ain't gonna lie. I mean, hey, I'll trade Paul Debo if I can get Devontae. I'll trade Paul Debo. I believe in Kool Aid enough because it will Kool Aid give you less production than what you're getting from a Debo? I don't think so. Also, Alvin Kamara's acceleration on that play is absolutely insane.
And I just love watching Kamara this season now that he has his burst again. Now that he's able to go move when he has the ball. He's able to accelerate and make those kind of plays. Because he's just sad watching him last year because he didn't have that juice. You could tell he was just so banged up that he was just a bruising running back. You'd give him the ball between the tackles and just let him go get 3, 4 yards because he just couldn't get away from guys. He's able to do that now. So I'm very excited for that. And yeah. But anyway, we've talked a lot about this Saints game, and I mean, obviously it's the game that's on right now. We're Saints fans, but there are some other big games that we do have to get into, and I think it's very obvious what one of those is. We've got the Ravens beating the Bengals. What a game that was! I mean, this is what this rivalry seems to always turn into just absolutely incredible games like this, and the offenses were flying. I mean, overtime victory. Chiefs, some questionable play calling by Zach Taylor, but I mean, what can you really expect there? He did come out and say that he deserves full blame for what's going on with them, and I agree. I think he's a terrible head coach and needs to be fired, like I've been saying. But I mean, what a game that was.
Man, it was really nice to see uh, Joe Burrow elevate his play. I mean, Lamar Jackson was really challenging him. It's just nice to see the competition between these two guys. And I mean, I expect the Ravens and Bengals to give us a good game every time, but it is really nice when you have an overtime game in the NFL. And you had Zay Flowers had a good game. Derrick Henry. I mean, really, all their playmakers had a good game. Now, the one thing I take away from that is I know you're going to love it because you're the Chase Brown guy and I'm the Zach Moss guy. But Zach Moss getting goddamn hurt in the game, hurting my stock here, hurting my argument a little bit. Chase Brown had a decent game. Um, he out
Unleash
carried.
the Chase Brown. It is his time.
Keep him in the stable for a couple more weeks, at least until CMC gets back for me, and then you can have him. Let whatever happen. But Mark Andrews, golf claps for Mark Andrews. He caught some fucking passes, huh? Oh my goodness, four catches, 55 yards. Oh my goodness, who is this man? That ain't Mark Andrews out there.
You know how
Good lord.
with Caleb Williams, what you're saying is all he had to do was play the Panthers to look good. Well, I think the Bengals might be roped into that conversation. All a player has to do at this point is play against the Bengals. 'Cause their defense is absolutely terrible. I mean, they one of the worst defenses in the league, and really, it's caught up to them at this point. They had a lot of injuries, or not? They've had some injuries, but they had a lot of free agency losses throughout the years, losing big important players, especially Jesse Bates, who I have no idea how they let walk. But now that here they are, they what was once a good defense is now just the cupboard's depleted, and they're biting a bullet for that. Now, this game, touchdown Saints, by the way, you'll never guess who are the best player on our team by far.
Let's see.
Everyone's favorite, Foster Moreau.
And Foster Moreau, everybody.
I mean, he needed that, finally doing something. But going back to the Bengals defense, I think it was a pretty interesting game plan that they had. Because what they said is, we're going to load the box up. We're going to be incredibly aggressive, bring pressure, loading the box, and we're going to make Lamar Jackson beat us throwing the ball. Well, Lamar Jackson very much so beat them throwing the ball. I mean, he looked absolutely great throwing the ball. 348 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, including that touchdown where it was a bad snap and he almost kneeled down trying to pick it up. But he's able to get up, scramble around, throw it to Isaiah Likely. Oh, that was just a beautiful broken play by the Ravens, just finding an open guy, just doing some backyard football. But I mean, Derrick Henry, to the Bengals' credit, he was pretty bottled up for most of the game. So their game plan worked in that regard. So he had that 51-yard carry, but if you subtract that, before he had that in overtime, he had 15 carries for 41 yards. So they bottled him up, but Lamar Jackson was just able to cook. And I think it's just at this point, this is what the Bengals are. They're not really able to do much on defense. They have a really great offense that finally clicked. They're the Drew Brees era Saints. They've got a great offense, but their defense is so bad that if they make one mistake, Joe Burrow throws that one pick, you miss that one field goal because of that bad snap, that's it. You can't overcome that because you're not going to get the stop that you need. And I think Zach Taylor really should have realized that when he decided to call 3 straight runs up the middle and gain no yards to not help McPherson out at all. But I mean, this is just you are what your record says you are. Yes, your offense is finally clicking, but you're a 1-4 team. You're very behind the 8 ball. If there's one saving grace for the Bengals, it's that the AFC is kind of wide open. The wild card race, you have the Steelers, Ravens, and Broncos at 3-2, looking like they're fighting for a wild card spot. One of those two teams is going to win the division, probably in the Steelers and the Ravens, which means there is going to be a spot up for grabs. The Bills are also 3-2, but I'm not counting them because their division's terrible. And if they can't win that division, they're not making the playoffs. But there is a spot available, but time's running out. It's like we talk about stealing wins. Well, the Bengals have had all these wins stolen from them at this point. They're 1-4. There's no margin for error if they want to make the playoffs. And once again, it's another season where they just start off needlessly slow. They don't look prepared. There's, I forget who it was I heard talking about this, but they said good teams don't just turn it on like that. Good teams are good the whole time. You can't just show up at the beginning of the year, show up whatever, and just not be prepared and all of a sudden say, hey, you know what? Now we're going to be a good team. No, you're either a good team the whole time or you're not a good team. For the Bengals, I mean, that's great that Burrow had a great game and the offense was clicking, but they're 1-4. I mean, that seat better be on fire for Zach Taylor, and they need to figure something out fast if they want a shot at the playoffs.
Shout out to Blake Gruby for missing a fucking extra point, by the way. Um,
Hey, this is the
13-16.
NFL script right here. He misses the extra point, so it's a 3-point game now.
Bro, I'm not trying to see overtime. Not in Arrowhead. I'm not trying to have this game go to overtime. I don't want any parts of that. Um, and we're gonna see here, folks. I mean, we talked about the stat last week, how Dennis Allen teams are 1-4, I believe, when they are within 6 points and the defense is on the field last. Um, I can guarantee you that's probably how this game going to end. Or we're just gonna get opened up here. Pause. Uh, but uh, with Zach Taylor, man, everything that you've said about Zach Taylor every week just seems to get amplified every week, right? Every time we come back for the next week, we're back to talking about Zach Taylor getting fired. And I have to imagine, I think I read a report that Zach Taylor's seat is hot as hell. That was one AFC executive's words, hot as hell. So I think he might be the first coach to get out of here. Um,
Especially with Doug Peterson getting a win. I mean, now things are looking up for the Jaguars, right?
no.
No, they're not.
No.
And here we go. Juju Smith-Schuster, huge play, wide open, nobody covering him. Here's the Saints. It's like, if there's any Pelicans fans out there, Antonio Daniels, what does he always say? You gotta go stop, score, stop, right?
Right?
Well, we got the stop, we got the score. We're not looking
Need to
too good
stop.
to get that stop that you have to do. Because you do that, it translates to football too. You get that, and then you have the ball back, you have the chance to take the lead or tie it. Instead, now the Chiefs have it inside the red zone. They're in a great position. It's like, this is just the old adage with anything. You got to get a stop. It's in baseball. It's you got to get you go put up some runs on the board. You want to go out there and put up a shutdown inning. Don't just let them get those runs back. I mean, this seems to happen to the Saints way too much. But going back
So,
to going back
Dave,
to this Bengals game,
man fucking coverage. Stop doing man coverage in late games, Dennis Allen.
I mean, I'm fine with them.
Please.
I'm fine with the man coverage there because that's what we're best at. That's fine. They don't need a chunk play. So, all right, fine. We just got beat. That's just bad execution. That's on the players right there. I mean, sure, maybe we could mix up a bit. The Where the man coverage is really biting us, we might be getting bailed out if this is a holding call, but where the man coverage really bites is the past two losses in a row. And you'd think they'd learn from the Eagles game. You have the ball, it's late in the game. Holding on the How do you get a holding on a run play on the defense? That's
Yeah,
terrible.
you see
But
the you see
what
the
I was saying
distinction.
is, so it's 2 minute. And you saw earlier in this game when they drove down in the 2 minute, the Saints are terrible at defending 2 minute. I mean, that's something we need to figure out. But if it's 2 minute and the other team's losing and they need whether they need a field goal or a touchdown, they don't have much time on the clock. They need chunk plays. The worst thing that you can do as the Chiefs go and score a touchdown, the worst thing that you can do is give up chunk plays because that's what they need. If they get little completions, little yardage, they don't have the time to keep doing that. So they're going to be looking to get a shot. So maybe run some off coverage. Maybe run some. If you're going to run man, at least don't be pressed up on the line. Instead of pressing up like the Saints like to do in 2 minute and inviting the opportunity. Sure, you can shut them down, but the risk reward. If it goes well, you completely shut down the play. But if it goes poorly, you get beat off the line, and a guy's wide open for a chunk play that loses you the game. It's just these are the stupid decisions, and it's kind of stuff that you see with bad teams where the Bengals make stupid decisions and it leads to them losing. The Saints seem to make a lot of those stupid decisions to lose games, but it's now a 10-point game after just a hugely disappointing play on defense, letting them drive down, and then getting a defensive holding on a run play, interestingly enough. But
Well, as a defensive lineman, I can actually tell you how you get a defensive holding on a run play. Um, and it's very simple. Is you hold if you're getting doubled, you
mm-hmm.
hold you hold the second guy that hits you because he's probably just trying to hit you for a little bit and then go up to the second level. You hold him so he doesn't get to the second level. So your linebacker can scrape and fit the gap. So that's probably what happened. I didn't
I think
see,
that was what
but
happened, but the bigger issue is not that you're doing that; it's that you're getting. I mean, I know it's the Chiefs, so they're gonna get all the calls, but how often do you see that actually get called? Pretty much never. So
well, we're
you have
playing
to.
the Chiefs in Arrowhead Stadium,
We
so
are
it's going
playing
to
the
be called.
Chiefs, so I will give the benefit of the doubt there, but I mean that has to be the most obvious hold of all time for it to get called because defensive holding almost never gets called in those situations. Even if it should, I feel like refs just say, "All right, we let up so many offensive holdings that we'll give you this one defense." But anyway, I do want to say one thing with this one more takeaway before we move on from this Bengals Ravens game. I think that the Ravens defense it's a bit of a question mark at this point. Because on the one hand, they seem to always struggle against this Bengals receiving core no matter what. It's almost like they're in their heads or something that no matter what, it's just going to be a big game for the Bengals offense. But the front end looks good. The back end, it seems like they just still have some communication issues. They still just don't have everything figured out. Now, they're a team that can kind of afford to be in that position now after starting 0-2, rattling off 3 straight wins. If they can keep improving, keep figuring things out, and keep winning, that's good. And I mean, it's like we like to say go win ugly early in the season, whatever. Just get those wins. You have time to figure it out as long as you're winning. If you're losing, like the Bengals are, that's when you're screwed and you don't have time to figure things out because you have no margin for error. I think it's just going to be very interesting to see moving forward with these two teams who are in moving in completely different directions right now. You got the Ravens. It looks like they're now in the driver's seat to go win that division after the Steelers go lose to the Cowboys. Bengals are a complete mess. I think as long as the Ravens defense can figure it out, though, they're going to be in a great position. Their O line also seems to be improving a little bit. They got Henry, so maybe they could use another weapon in the passing game, but I think that they're a solid team. Now, the next game I think that we want to get to, we got to go to London because you doubted them. You said that they weren't for real, but they're now one of two undefeated teams, and hopefully, if the Saints can pull through, we'll be the only undefeated team left in the league. Vikings beat the Jets.
Well, you know what I'm gonna say? It's the Jets. Jets gonna jet. Uh, I ain't buying it. No, I'm just playing. I'm gonna buy it a little bit. I told you last week I was coming into it a little bit. I'm like, you know what? Maybe they onto something. Uh, man, I think this is just another game now that speaks to was this a Chris Olave sighting? Here we go, drinking game. I'm a spin the block on the Vikings, but I'm getting real sick and tired of. I guarantee what's going to happen here is Olave's probably going to have 10 targets for these next couple drives, and I hate how we just don't use Chris Olave until it's already too late. Like he's open because in late game situations like this, he's always open. So if he's open in late game, he's telling me he's open in the mid game and early game. And I'm like, we're sitting here leaving wide receiver one. I mean, this guy should be getting talked about like Garrett Wilson is.
Hey,
Chris Olave is what people think Garrett Wilson is, and
I'm
he's
sorry to
not.
interrupt you. We'll get back to this, and it is actually an ironic comp because they're both Ohio State guys. Look at Derek Carr right there, under pressure, completing a pass, replacing the blitzer. He threw the ball right to where the blitz came from, and it was an easy completion. let's do that every time. And I'll let you transition back to Chris Olave because that is the perfect time after this last play, although there is a flag. But get back to what you were saying before we go back to the Vikings Jets.
Well, that play right there, I mean, Chris Olave is blanketed and he still makes the catch on the sideline. I mean, it's insane the amount of things this guy does. They're pointing to the Chiefs, so it looks like this is going to stand. Um, but Chris
Oh,
Olave, is it not on us or is it on them? Oh, okay, offset. Yeah, I just got to say, man, I think false start penalties should mean
wow.
plays dead.
Well, that is an absolute bailout right there for the Saints because that would have been a full start, would have been a dead ball right there, so it would have negated the entire play. But I mean, what an idiot right there for the Chiefs picking up that penalty for absolutely no reason. And it wasn't even Trevor Penning who was the one who
Wasn't
instigated
even
it.
Trevor
So
Penning.
that's the biggest surprise right there.
Who's that? Lucas Patrick. Shout out to Lucas Patrick for talking shit. That's what I like to see. Um, Yeah, man, feed Chris Olave. I don't understand why we only feed Chris Olave in late games when we really need it. I mean, obviously, when we really need it, you want to go to your varsity one, but like, why you don't do that for the whole game? I mean, if he's going to be open in the late game, he's going to be open the whole game. Like, just, hey, man, give me Devontae Adams so we can just solve this. And also, I hate the way we use Chris Olave. I think we need more deep shots for Chris Olave. He runs a 4-3.
Well, that really circles back to what we were saying before, where we need another receiver. Chris Olave has to be your short and intermediate guy because we don't have another guy for that role. We have Rashid Shaheed, who he is exclusively a deep threat, although he has to be used in a different role a bit sometimes because we don't have another receiver. And then we have, I guess, Mason Tipton as our number 3 receiver, it looks like right now. I mean, at this point, really, Alvin Kamara out of the backfield is our number 3 receiver, although we haven't really been getting him as involved as we should, especially when a team brings pressure like this. As I say that, they go throw him a 2 yard pass. That means absolutely nothing, but we need an intermediate threat so that Olave can get unlocked down the field, so that Shaheed doesn't have to be an intermediate threat. But here we go. We got a big 3rd and 8 right here. This is where you need to step up right here. You need to make a play. I mean, obviously you do. There's still
Well,
a lot of time left, but
I don't like the personnel that's on this field. I see Jamal Williams. I see Cedric Wilson. This is
see Foster
I don't
Moreau
Foster Moreau and Chris Olave and Rashishi. I don't like this personnel, to be honest. Um,
pressure.
and it's empty. I don't like it.
Shaheed's got to sell that penalty. Are you
Mm.
kidding me? Oh my
They're
goodness.
going for it on 4th and 8.
I
So this
hate
is
this
the
so much. If you are going to go for it on
this is the
fourth
one man
down,
sounding dumb
gain
penalty.
some yards on 3rd down. Go get 4 yards on 3rd down and make it manageable. Or just get in the field goal range because it's a 2 possession game. We need a kick anyway. Like, if we're going to go for it on 4th down, don't take a deep shot like that, but let's see if they can convert it, and then we're going to get back to the Vikings Jets. So here we go. And no. And we waste a timeout. Our second timeout of the half gets wasted. Terrible clock management by Dennis Allen. Terrible. I mean, come on. What are you doing there? Like, so you go for a shot on 3rd down, don't get it, line up to go for it on 4th and 8, and then have to waste a timeout. I assume they're going to go back out there. If you don't get this, this is a disastrous. You give them the ball back. There's a ton of time, but now you wasted a timeout. Like, this is what bad teams do. Bad teams make stupid mistakes, and it comes back to bite them. But let's go ahead and let's get back to the Vikings Jets right now. We'll have reactions after this 4th down play call, but what I want to say about this Vikings game is the thing that really impressed me and kind of made me more confident in this Vikings team. Incomplete pass.
Throwing pressure, another
But
fadeaway throw. I mean,
the thing that gave me more confidence right now in this Vikings team is that Sam Darnold had a bad game. As crazy as that might sound, the fact that he had a bad game makes me feel a little bit better about this team because yes, the Jets aren't a great team, but they found a way to win while Darnold was having a bad game. And that's what good teams do. When their offense isn't clicking or their defense isn't clicking, when one side of the ball struggles, the other side picks them up and they go get the win. And that's exactly what they did right there. I think that is a really great performance once again. I mean, this Vikings defense needs to be talked about as one of the best, if not the best defense in the league, because that's week in and week out. They're making plays. They are doing a great job of not just bringing pressure, but showing so many different looks that it just slows the offense down a step. You don't know if they're going to bring pressure or not since they mix it up so much, and you always have to assume that they are. They do a great job of disguising. Like on that pick six for Van Ginkel, they had him showing blitz. He looked like he was going to blitz. And they know when Aaron Rodgers sees a blitz coming, he'll audible to a slant, throw it quickly over the middle to try and replace that blitzer. They knew exactly what Rodgers wanted to do. So they had Van Ginkel show that blitz, then he drops back into coverage, picks it off, runs it back for a touchdown. One thing that I think is a bit of a concern for the Jets is their offense is way too predictable. Everyone knows what Aaron Rodgers wants to do at this point because there's so much film on him. They know just like how he wants to audible to a slant and throw it over the middle when there's a blitz coming. They know where he's looking, and they know he's looking either if it's blitz, he's going to throw it over the middle or just run up the middle. They know where he wants to get the ball on different routes. And one of the big problems is he hasn't adapted at all. The big thing that's going down in the league right now is shifts and motions are huge. You, I mean, it's a huge thing to use shifts and motions to get the motion going pre-snap, get a read on what the defense is doing, maybe get a guy a running start so he's in an advantageous position. Rodgers doesn't like doing that, so the Jets do none of that. They're predictable. You know what's coming. All their runs are up the middle. All their passing game is predictable, and they're a team that's figured out. Rodgers, I mean, I don't know if he's going to adjust at this point in his career, but he needs to. I mean, something needs to change. That, I mean, as bad as the Jets have looked, they're not in a terrible position after the Bills go and lose a game and look very vulnerable. They can easily win that division if they, I say easily, I mean, they need to look a lot better, but record wise, they're only one game back. It's wide open, but they got to figure something out quickly.
I'm having a hard time trying to rattle thoughts together as I'm watching the game and then also making my very angry Saints tweets at the same time. Um, man, if I'm Devontae Adams and looking at both of these teams, I'm like, man, I don't know if I can. I mean, I feel like the Saints would be the better team to go to still. I think the Jets have problems beyond Devontae Adams. Then again, so do we. So what the hell am I even talking about? But the Jets, man, they
Oh, come
they just
on.
they just look like shit, man.
Why are we making Juju Smith Schuster look like he has Antonio Brown on his team?
Because we're the Saints, of course.
I mean, that's terrible, but yeah, what were you saying about the Jets?
I mean, Brees Hall is not. Well, he's probably averaging like what 3.6 yards per carry, probably even less. He's
I think
not.
they're hiding an
He,
injury with him or something. Either that or he's just like, I don't want to say that he lost a step because he coming off of that injury because he looked like he had more of a step last year coming back from the injury, but he just doesn't have any burst.
you know, there is Braylon Allen, and I unfortunately feel like maybe you're gonna see more of Braylon Allen this year. But I don't know who to blame. I believe Nathaniel Hackett's the OC, right? Because if he
Yeah, I
is,
believe he is still
I'm
the
blaming him.
OC, and I think that is part of the problem that they're just trying to be the Packers of old instead of adjusting to what the league is now.
Sean Payton. said, "Hey, Nathaniel Hackett sucks," and nobody really said he was wrong. They just said he was a jerk for
Uh
saying it.
oh. It might
Oh,
be
Jake Hayner
Spence.
time.
I don't think Spencer Rattler's active, so it
No, he's
might
the
be Jake
emergency
Hainer
third
time.
quarterback. Please. And this is what I'm gonna tell people. Look, I still believe that Spencer Rattler is the QB2, but it's kind of like the Jameis situation. The game plan is built for Derek Carr. Spencer Rattler is not Derek Carr. The closest quarterback that you have to Derek Carr on the roster is Jake Hayner,
He's
which is why
short,
they have him at
but
QBT,
we
QBT,
cannot stop mobile
QB2.
quarterbacks.
How did he get out of that?
We can't stop mobile. This is always our. The problem is, as bad as the Chiefs' offense is, they have our two weaknesses: a good tight end and a mobile quarterback. Oh man,
Oh man,
it's always
this is
something with
getting
this team.
this is getting stinky, man.
I mean, this just sucks because it is on the road in Arrowhead, and the Chiefs have a very, very good defense. But this is probably the most winnable game that we would ever have against the Chiefs. They have no weapons outside of Kelsey and Xavier Worthy a bit, but he's the kind of player that you should, like, you 100% should be able to scheme to take away in a game like this since they don't have Rasheed Rice. They have one guy you really have to focus on, so scheme to take him away. Instead, we're letting Juju Smith Schuster cook us. Instead, we're letting them run the ball a bit better than they should. And Derek Carr is going to the locker room. I'm not sure what his injury is because I'm not really listening to the commentary since obviously we're commentating right now. But can Jake Hanner lead the Saints and go steal the QB1 job? Is this going to be our big storyline? I don't know, but man, I mean, these are the plays right here with Mahomes. I mean, shout out to him because that's a great play by him. But we just got to be able to make these plays. And it's just frustrating. But do you have any other thoughts on this Viking Jets game?
Nathaniel Hackett sucks. Coaching matters. That was a perfect game to show that coaching matters. Sam Darnold didn't even really have a good game. It's just coaching matters, man. Just got out coached again. Aaron Rodgers, in hindsight, which look, I've always been an Aaron Rodgers hater. I already told y'all the reasons for that. This is just proving my point. The guy ain't what y'all think he is, especially 40 something years old. And it's even worse because he can't go home and be a family man. His family hates him. That's all he got. All he can go do is sit in a dark room and take perks. Come on now. That shouldn't be your quarterback. Him and Deshaun Watson are fighting for the worst people of all time. I don't even think Deshaun Watson's a bad person. That's a hot take. It's just he did some crazy shit. Uh,
Well,
first
first
round
down
FFC.
Chiefs. Here we go. Oh man, this is just so frustrating. But get a stop here, hold them to a field goal at least. It's at least that two touchdowns can give you the lead. So I mean, you just gotta get this stop quick because clock's becoming a factor, and because we wasted those timeouts and we got one timeout here. I mean, it's just classic Saints. It feels like classic, just blowing games. I mean, not really blowing the game because we weren't leading, but it's just beating ourselves. We have the Derek Carr pick earlier. We have that fourth down call. We have that third and 22 that we let them bring to a fourth and one off of that lateral play. I'm like, all these kinds of things that you just can't do if you want to win games. And Saints are doing it, but I want to go to the Texans Bills game because that was a big one. And I think that is another team that falls into the same category as the Chiefs, same category as the Saints. Bills need another receiver, and it really, really showed in that game.
I'm still waiting on the Keon Coleman breakout game. I believe in Keon Coleman a lot. I do.
I don't know
And
if
I
that's going to happen. I think that he's a player that can have a specific role, but he's not a separator. And with Khalil Shakir out, they didn't have a single receiver out there who was able to get open. So it was just a bunch of contested balls that Josh Allen was trying to throw, and the Chiefs did a really great job of defending it. I mean, not the sorry, the Texans did a really great job of defending it.
There we go, another 4 yard run from Kareem Hunt. Everybody, Derrick Henry. I mean, because I guess that's who we're playing.
Well, I'll go back to the Texans though. That was the big statement win that they needed. I mean, that's one of the things that we said is they need to go, especially after having that rough loss. They need to go prove themselves. Go, hey, we can go beat a good team because their offense really hadn't been that good to start the season. And it's a little bit weird because you would have thought that their offense would have just taken off, been even better. Because, oh man, here we go, just letting the Chiefs drive again. But you'd think that the Texans offense would just take another leap forward because they bring in Stephon Diggs. All of a sudden, that receiving core is great. You get bringing Joe Mixon. Yes, he's been hurt, but it's like you're upgrading your offense. This should be the time when everything looks great there and it's all exciting. They really haven't looked that good to start the season until this game, and I think part of this is it's a young team, and it's really hard to be a good team in the NFL when you're expected to be good, especially when you're a young team like this. And I think that's a little bit of what was happening with the Texans to start the season. Is they were a team that was great last year. Now this year they have to continue that, and they have to adjust when teams now know a little bit how to adjust to them. This was a game where, besides that one pick that CJ Stroud threw, he looked excellent. He was under heavy pressure for a lot of the game, but only got sacked once. And it's just crazy for a quarterback this young how poised he is in the pocket. He'll keep his head up, move around in the pocket, evade the pressure, eyes are downfield, and then he'll go make a tough throw that a lot of quarterbacks wouldn't even attempt because he knows he can make it. And he trusts in himself to get out of pressure, get out of those situations, and just go lock in and make a good play. So I think this is really a statement for the Texans that they're a solid team. That being said, I think we also need to be seriously concerned about the Bills at this point. Yes, this was one of those games where everything went right for the Texans and everything went wrong for the Bills, but Josh Allen, 9 of 30, 131 yards, one touchdown, no picks, which is good for him, but here's the telling stats about this team. Josh Allen was 1 for 11 for 35 yards against man coverage. He was 0 for 8 against cover 1 specifically. The Bills were 0 for 9 on 3rd and 7 plus. They didn't have Shakir, so that hurt their already depleted receiving core. And he's really their receiver that at least he's nothing super special, but he'll get separation, get open, and just be a target that'll be open for Allen, so it doesn't have to be contested balls. In this game, nobody was getting open at all. You've got Keon Coleman who can't separate. You have Dalton Kincaid at tight end. You had Mac Hollins who they're taking deep shots to. And all these guys, Coleman had 1 reception on 5 targets. Kincaid, 2 receptions on 6 targets. Hollins, 2 receptions on 6 targets. You had Valdez Scantling getting 3 targets, no receptions. Curtis Samuel, 1 reception on 4 targets. Nobody was open at all. They, even more so than the Saints, honestly, because the Saints at least have the explosive plays from Olave, from Shaheed, and Olave just being Olave. The Bills really have no one. And I get why they got rid of Diggs, and I think that was the right decision. His performances were going down, and he's getting paid a lot of money, and he was getting older. So that's fair for them to move on. It is really hard to win, and we've discussed this a lot. It's hard to win when you're paying your quarterback top money and a receiver top money because it leaves holes around the rest of the team that you're struggling to fill with all the money you're investing. But you need to have a guy like, sure, maybe not pay top end money for a receiver in most cases, but you need to have some target that all right, we need to move the chains here. It's 3rd down. This guy's going to be open. The Bills don't really have that, especially without Shakir, and that really got exposed. The Texans just manned up on them and shut them down, and I mean, shout out to the Texans defense. They really stepped up and looked good, especially their D line, who continues to look good against a good Bills O line. But Bills need to go get that receiver. Whether it's Adams or whoever it is, they need someone.
I mean, if you're the Bills and you go for Adams, I mean, what do you give up? I mean, do you just give them the second? I mean, I'm looking at for them second round, right? You draft Keon Coleman in the second round. So, I mean, obviously Devontae Adams is better than a Keon Coleman, and Devontae Adams is better than really most people you'll get in the second round right now. Um, that's not to say these guys won't become better later in their careers, but I don't know if that's what they want to do. I think a better question is why don't you go get Amari Cooper? He's much cheaper. I mean, that could probably go for a lot of other teams, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Amari Cooper on that Bills team. I really wouldn't.
I don't know. I don't think that it's possible to get Amari Cooper at this point for anything reasonable because I mean, maybe they will end up trading him, but the Browns just seem like they're in this weird position where they're a bad team that is desperate to contend because everyone wants to keep their jobs. For some reason, they won't move on from Deshaun Watson, which screams they want, especially the front office, wants to prove that he can work and that he's worth what they traded for him. And then Stefanski, you know his seat's heating up with how bad this season's looking. They're just a dumpster fire. But going back to Adams, I don't think his trade market really is going to be that big. Or his trade value. He might have a big market, but I don't think the Raiders are going to get that much back for him. Because for the one hand, a lot of these trades that you see, like the Judon trade to the Falcons, where Judon's been a top pass rusher recently, you don't really get that much back for these players because teams know that you have no intention of keeping this player since you're not contending at all. He's eating up your salary cap. You're ready to rebuild. And because of their age and their contracts, teams aren't willing to give up that much. They'll say, hey, we'll give you this. We know nobody's going to go out and beat our offer. So I don't think it's going to be a huge value deal. And that contract's going to be the big thing. But the Bills, I mean, it's such a weird situation for them because he's exactly what they need, but would they go give something up for him when they just had a receiver like that in Stephon Diggs that they let walk because he was too expensive and too old? And what a pass, Derek Carr.
Shout out Jake Hammer, man.
Oh, sorry, Jake Haener. That's right. I'll give him a pass because that's his first pass, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Do you?
I'm getting cooked in a goddamn group chat right now. Dave, help! I'm getting cooked. They're like, so Calvin, you're talking all this shit. Oh, don't you ever come for the king again? No, you see what's happening? Man, y'all are beating us by 13 points. We got basically two starting no linemen. We got one linebacker out there that's starting. We got one safety left.
I think we gave up. I think look at how Jawan Johnson gets up there and look at how we get to the line. There's no sense of urgency. He just we need two scores, and you have Jawan Johnson getting up as slow as possible. That's terrible, but geez, Jake Haener looks like it's just like bring your kid to work when he's getting rushed by these guys that just look like double his size. But Saints O line is a major problem at this point, and I think the first 2 weeks they really just went up against really bad defensive lines, and that made people think that they were a lot better than they are. Eric McCoy being hurt just really nailed it in, but every good defensive line that they've faced, they've struggled against. I just don't think like last year our O line was one of the worst in the leagues.
Global quarterback. Look what happens. Derek Carr would have stood there and died.
Yeah. Shout out Haener for that, but Saints O line, it was bad last year, and it's pretty much the exact same O line this year, minus a new left tackle, but McCoy being down. And we replaced Ramchek with Trevor Penning, which is a downgrade. So
Hey
that's
man,
something that
I
needs to be figured
I
out.
don't expect Ramchek to come back. But how great would it be if he says, "Guys, my knee is healthy. I'm coming back. Please
How
give
would
me
that
this
work
drive."
mid-season? I mean, I guess he'd just be fine to come back mid-season.
Um, I know he's not on IR.
Yeah, he's
He's on some list
no,
right
he's
now.
he
That's
medically
active.
retired.
I don't think he retired. I mean,
I'm pretty sure he did medically retire.
I don't think he retired. I think we put him on some like
We might
exempt
have put him on the
PUP
PUP.
list. I think it's the exempt PUP list. If anybody wants to know how good I am at defending the Saints and how good I am at shit talking, he just texted me in the group chat and said, "I love talking crap to you because you're one of the few that can give it back." Oh yeah, I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna fight for my Saints, y'all.
Yeah, I
Y'all,
don't think
even though
he
he's
officially medically retired, but it's just a strong possibility since they ruled him out for the season. Man, I mean,
man, look at Jake Hanner using his legs. Fucking hell, man. I appreciate that.
oh, what are
Fuck.
you doing, Hayner? No, don't slide there. I guess all right. It's the 2-minute warning, so it doesn't matter. I mean, the Saints aren't winning this game because it is impossible to get an onside kick. But if we're gonna lose this game, I hope Derek Carr's okay, obviously, because he never want a guy to get injured. But at
You
least we
know
get to
what?
see
No, I don't. I don't. Let him be hurt for a little while. Let him take a break. He's
at least we
old.
get to see Jake Kaner right here. Just give us some entertainment while we're losing this game. Because what this is really showing, though, in this super incredibly small sample size, you have to have a mobile quarterback in this league almost. Yes, if you're like just a elite player, you can work as a pocket passer. But unless you're just elite and can get the ball out this quickly, look what happens. We have a bad O line, and I know this is a terrible situation to judge off of because it's the Chiefs know that we need chunk plays. They're playing back, but when plays break down, Hayner's able to scramble out and do something. I'm not saying that he's going to save this team and just be some elite player, but he it just does show the value of having a guy that can scramble out and make something happen instead of just getting sacked in the pocket or panicking whenever pressure's there. So Derek Carr's kind of his model of quarterbacks kind of becoming a bit of a dinosaur now. They're getting phased out. That's something that we might need to dig deeper into. As you see so many more mobile quarterbacks, what does the league look like for pocket passers? Because there's really not that many true pocket passers around in the league especially compared to where they used to be.
Well, the thing is, passes are getting out quicker. We're going back to that old school way of, 3-step, whatever, drop, and then you throw it. So passes are getting out in 2.5 seconds. A good way to put this in perspective, if you line up like a defensive end and there's no one blocking you and you have to run, let's say 8 to 10 yards, that's probably going to take you maybe about 1.8 to 2 seconds to get there. And that's with nobody trying to block you. Now imagine you put a 300-pound, 6'5", 6'6", 6'7" guy right in front of you, and the guy bench presses a Mack truck, and now you have to get through him or around him in about the same amount of time to get to the quarterback. So it gets a little bit hard. So this is where now you see the evolution of the speed rusher, which is what I hate about Dennis Allen's defense, that he just flat out refuses to get guys who are, I mean, the guys he gets are athletic, but they're power rushers. They're 6'5" Marcus Davenport Bills. They run 4.6s, 4.5s, and or just straight power rushers. I am always on the train of right now, go get a Micah Parsons type build as your end. Because these speed rushers are necessary. Because you see right now why we can't contain QBs. Because when you're power rushing, you're rushing down the middle of somebody and your attack angle shortens up the edge for the quarterback. Therefore, it's a lot easier for the quarterback to skate out. Now, let's say you have a speed rusher. The only way that he can come, or the only way that the quarterback can get out is either going very far backwards, like what Lamar
Oh,
Jackson does, or he steps up through the B gap. And then defensive tackle should be there to get that. So the pocket passer is dying because teams are getting faster ends. Unless you're the Saints, you're gonna still keep having the big slow power rushers and see people like Cam Jordan just try to ooze off of a block and chase a fucking mobile quarterback down. It's the most disgusting thing ever on this planet to watch. Um, and the
Uh,
ball's getting up.
Sorry to interrupt you, but
Oh, looks like this game's over.
yeah, I was just so yep. It looks like it is the end of the Saints game. Chiefs are taking a knee, so congratulations to the Chiefs staying undefeated. Let's get back to your talk. Some good conversation that we're having.
Um, but yeah, so the pocket passer isn't really necessary because, like I said, it's that pendulum, like we talked about. I think last week or a couple weeks ago. The league is going to swing into different ways, and right now it is speed rushers to contain mobile QBs, and of course with the evolution of that nickel hybrid linebacker, they're also quick, so they can go and catch you too. So I will bring up Joe Flacco though, the man who never dies, also much like Andy Dalton. Joe Flacco had a run this week, a very long run, and he didn't look slow. And Joe Flacco was not really ever known for his wheels, for his
He
legs.
actually hit the top speed that he ever hit in his career.
And he is like 38, 39.
39
So
years
what that
old.
tells me, and also as I mentioned last week with the cleats that he has on the caskets that the cleats I also wear, it shows me that Joe Flacco has adjusted his body in his later years to still be able to compete in today's NFL. Because yes, being a pure pocket passer is nice and all, but having guys who can just get around the edge now, that's what you need. And I'm actually appalled by how unathletic Derek Carr is. He looks less athletic than Drew Brees. Now, Drew Brees is the greatest athlete of all time, so maybe that's not saying much. But I'm so. I thought Derek Carr had better movement than that. He looks like he has cement in his cleats, and his pocket presence sucks. And I'm like, I have to keep watching Derek Carr do these dumbass fadeaway throws because either he just gets so panicked and terrified in the pocket, even though no one's around him, or he just does that because he just can't move out the way. And he doesn't do any escape moves. It's hard to
Well,
watch.
he's
It
also,
just is.
I don't think he's a very smart player. Like, I don't think he has a good football IQ. So they've talked about this multiple broadcasts this season. What Kubiak has done for Derek Carr is asked him to do less. Yes, the Saints offense was very convoluted with Pete Carmichael because it's just the amalgamation of the Sean Payton, Drew Brees offense, just always adding stuff because they were able to do that. But they've keep talking about they're asking Derek Carr to do less. They've simplified the playbook. That's fair. That's needed. But they're talking about now. They're not asking him to go shift the line, go ID stuff. They're just telling him go out there, play fast, go snap the ball and go play. Well, that's great, but especially now that Eric McCoy's gone, who's your center who would make all those calls. I mean, so what are you doing then? If are you just having a backup lineman be responsible for doing all this because your quarterback's not capable of it?
Hold on. Repeat that. I'm having everyone blow my fucking phone up right now. My fault.
So you've heard where they keep talking about how what Kubiak's doing is he's simplifying things for Derek Carr, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of it is the playbook had gotten really convoluted under Carmichael because it's just this amalgamation of the Sean Payton Drew Brees offense where they would constantly add things. They'd see, we like this look against this team, so let's throw this into the playbook, have this that we can use because Brees was capable of it. He was capable of knowing all these different plays, all of these different calls, and being able to adjust the stuff mid game. He would go adjust the protection, go check plays at the line, do all that. So I get that it was a bit complicated and they need to simplify that, but they're talking about today, like even while he was at the Raiders, like Kubiak just wants things to be simplified and just Carr go out there, play quick. Don't go adjust the protection. Don't do any of that. Just go play quick. And that's great, but Eric McCoy's out. He's your guy that makes all those protection calls. So what are you going to do? Are you going to have your backup center go be in charge of calling the protection because your quarterback's not capable of that? Like, it just sounds like a recipe for disaster to me.
Well, okay, so now that I've heard all that, now I can formulate this. Um, this that leads me into one of my biggest issues, probably the biggest issue I have with Derek Carr, and that is as a QB, a decade in as a starter, there is zero excuse for you to have offenses be simplified. Look at Andy Dalton and Joe Flacco. They come in to new programs and just make the team better. But that's just because they've been in the league for so long. They've seen a lot of things. Their experience is what is making them good. So you would think we should have the same effect for Derek Carr. But I always say this about Derek Carr. The reason why Derek Carr will never be a good quarterback, to me, in my eyes, is because if I have to have everything go right for you to be good, then you're just not good. If we have to have all the starters on the O line, if Eric McCoy has to be there, if you if you can't let me rephrase this. If you have to have Eric McCoy and you have to have the entire starting O line, if you have to have at least 3.5, 4 seconds to throw the ball, then you're not a good quarterback. If you can't adjust, because I've seen right now, right? I don't think I've seen Derek Carr this year have a successful 2 minute drive, like an actual 2 minute drive, 2 minute warning and under drive. I just don't think I haven't. I don't think I've seen it. And then yes, the O line is bad, but the quarterback play got significantly worse. I understand, like I said, I understand the O line. A lot of people went down. I get it, but you're a 10-year starter in the NFL at QB. And then you're telling me if a blitz comes, you look just as panicked as a damn rookie. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, we sent a blitz, he don't even move. He doesn't even flinch. Now, yeah, you can argue, oh, that's because he trusts his own line a lot more. Sure, I can see Derek Carr being terrified behind his own line. I can. I'll be terrified too. But I'm not. I'm also not a 10-year starter in the NFL at quarterback. Now, am I, Dave? Last time I checked. So it's frustrating because Derek Carr is just one of those QBs where the system has to fit him. And then I believe you asked me earlier, like, is it just because he's a dumb quarterback? Yes. Um, and I think you just said that he was a dumb quarterback. He's not particularly smart.
Yeah, he's low football IQ.
A low football IQ, because I mean, we're looking at the things that he does, and it just doesn't make sense. And I'm like, dude, like last week, why would you pump fake a guy? He jumps in the air, and you say, "Oh, well, I'm gonna go ahead and Mahomes this bitch. I'm gonna throw this sideways," but you end up just throwing it into his arm. Bounces the ball up 25 feet in the air and just hangs there. Yeah, all right, this is a pick six now. So like he just does shit like that. It doesn't make sense. Or the whole he just the fadeaway throws, they don't make any sense. Set your damn feet, man. Set your feet. Stand in there. Put your pot. You can't move anyway. What are you doing? Just stand. Just stay strong in there. And
You know,
Brady had a point when he said he the quarterbacks suck and that he could probably come back and still be better than 95% of them. And I believe him because this is and it's
when he
frustrating
first
too
said
because
that, I was like, all right, this is just Brady just talking like this. It's like, yeah, I mean, you didn't even look that great in your last year, but No. Now looking at how this season has progressed, quarterback play sucks. I mean, it's crazy how there's really just so much mid, and you're seeing this with the quarterback contracts. We've talked about that, and we'll keep talking about this whole season. You've got all these guys who are just not deserving the money that they're getting, or it's not that they don't deserve it. It's that they are not a top three, top five talent, and they're getting paid that kind of money. So the market's just a mess because you're paying mid quarterbacks top end money because you have to keep them. There's not that many great elite needle moving quarterbacks right now, but every quarterback is treated like that's what they have to be. I being a game manager is seen as a dirty thing, but it's like Brady has said, there's nothing wrong with being a game manager. If you're a game manager and winning games, that's great. But instead, every QB is being paid like a top end QB, treated like they have to do that, make plays like that. And it's not working. Like, this is clearly something that's just not working out. And I'm very interested to see when this market crashes, when there's a shift in that. But I do want to say something about Derek Carr, because while we were talking, I thought of a theory. So you're familiar with how things went down with his brother's career, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
With the Texans,
Yep,
correct?
with the Texans. The most sacked quarterback. He was basically the original Andrew Luck. Just got beat up so badly that he retired, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Derek Carr, what does he do whenever he's pressured?
He panics,
He
gets a
panics.
little scared, shrivels up a little bit.
I wonder if he's got some mental thing after watching his brother's career where he's scared of that happening to him.
You know, I would buy that if he hasn't been in the league for that long. I can't buy it. He's been in the league for too long
I don't
for
know.
that to be an
He's
excuse.
been in the league, but he's been the exact same quarterback his entire time in the league. And it's weird because he's got enough raw talent in him that he obviously can stick around the league, be a top half to like middle tier quarterback. Like, let's say he's like the 16th best quarterback in the league or better, just about for his career. Um, he's like definitively mid, but good enough that he sticks around with the team, able to, when he's getting replaced by one team, go get signed by another team and have demand for him. But at the same time, nothing about his career has developed. He is the same quarterback he was as a rookie, same panicking under pressure, same just not really being a cerebral quarterback. And a lot of it is that he's not a cerebral quarterback, but the panicking thing, you would think that after being in the league this long, unless it's really something like either he's just a terrible quarterback, but then he'd be out of the league. I wonder if there is really just something psychological that he never shook that he doesn't want that to happen. So the second he sees pressure, he just bails it out so he doesn't get beat up. And then it's probably especially got reinforced last year when he was just getting beat up like crazy.
You know, I had something, man. I had a theory, a thought, but I lost it. Let me think on it a little bit. I think I can still bring this back. But I think it was along the lines of ah, uh-huh. I want to bring up Sam Darnold because I believe Sam Darnold was kind of in a place like Derek Carr, where I mean, we literally had the guy give us one of the best quotes in NFL history. I was seeing ghosts out there. The guy was shook. He was spooked. He's panicking under any type of duress. He's throwing the ball all willy nilly, is sailing everywhere. He's in his head. That's what we call in the D line industry. We're in the quarterback's head. He is feeling pressure that's not there. Hence the ghost. But he got over that. And it's not like he went to, because he was with the Jets when he said that. It ain't like he went to a better team. He went to the Panthers. Now, if there's any team you should going to see ghosts on, it's the Panthers. But it seems like he's gotten over that. And he hasn't been in the league anywhere near as long as Derek Carr has, and he's only 27. So what clicked for him? Now, obviously, you can say it's coaching, whatever. But what else clicked for him to where he got over that? To where, okay, yeah, and this goes with the mentality of like Drew Brees and Peyton Manning and uh, Tom Brady. I remember all of them at one point said a quote along the lines of, "You're gonna get hit anyway. Make the throw." And Peyton Manning, every time he throws the ball, you see him roll his shoulder to prepare to take the hit because it mitigates damage. So these guys were experts at doing that too. But for Darnold, you see him in a situation where he looks comfortable in the pocket. Look, he has. I'm gonna bring this to baseball. He has command on the pitch, on the mound. Derek Carr has no command, and I want to figure out what's it gonna take if it ever happens for him to learn and to get out of his own head in that regard, like Sam Darnold, because Sam Darnold is a better quarterback than Derek Carr at this very moment. And
I'll be
Sam Darnold
honest.
isn't making $150 million.
I'll be honest. I don't think that it ever happens with Derek Carr at this point, just because he is a veteran. He is old. He is a lot older than Sam Darnold is right now while he's having his breakout. I'm gonna go back to Sam Darnold for a second because it's the exact point that I told you earlier. Put a, I told you before this season, put a quarterback in a good situation and good things will happen. Almost all the time, if you put a quarterback in a good situation, you're going to get good results from it. Conversely, if you put a quarterback in a bad situation, especially a young quarterback, they're going to have an almost impossible time overcoming that. Sam Darnold, like you said, he looked like he was a terrible quarterback. He looked like he was just an absolute bust. He was a waste of a pick for the Jets and was never going to do anything. Well, then he goes and he's put in a great situation right now with a good team around him. He's got weapons around him, and he's got a coach that's really knows how to use him well and is able to integrate him into his offensive vision. Look at how they're clicking. And even like not every game's gonna be perfect. He had a bad game in this past game, but they have a great defense and they were able to overcome a bad performance by their offense to go win. But putting a quarterback in a good situation, as obvious as it sounds, will have great results. And that's something that I don't get how more teams don't understand when they go draft these rookie quarterbacks. Because, yes, you need a quarterback, but if you're the Panthers and your organization's in a huge mess, and then you go trade away your number one receiver and you trade away a first round pick and you trade away all this capital to go get a quarterback, Bryce Young, I don't think is a very good quarterback in general. Because I mean, he just doesn't look like a good quarterback out there with the throws he misses, with how he panics in the pocket. But what did you expect was going to happen when you have a rookie quarterback coming in with no weapons, with a bad O line, just terrible situation? Of course he's
And
going to
bad
suck.
coaching, very bad
Bad,
coaching.
terrible coaching. Yes, he might he I don't see him being good, but who knows? Maybe he'll be Sam Darnold somewhere else. But either way, you want to put your quarterback in a good situation. Now going back to Derek Carr, he comes into the Saints. It's a bad situation. Pete Carmichael, I mean, we all know how terrible of an offensive coordinator he was. So you come into the first 2 weeks of this season, you have us all having hope. And you're thinking, all right, this team might actually be good. We fire Pete Carmichael, we bring in Kubiak, and this is a team that might actually be really good. I mean, look what happens when you have a real offensive coordinator. Well, now here you go. We get those 2 wins, but then the wheels start to come off, and you start to see a lot of things are exposed. You see Derek Carr, not that great of a quarterback, and he is a quarterback that needs to be in the perfect situation, like you said. The second there's pressure, he panics, he throws an interception, he bails the ball out, he wastes the play, he ruins it. The offensive line, it's a mess. It's basically the exact same O line as last year. We bring in a rookie left tackle, we lose our veteran right tackle. And that is the only changes that are made. And then Eric McCoy goes down, and you're now missing him. Other than that, it's about the exact same team on the line, and the O line was terrible last year. Receiving core, exact same receiving core. You have Rashid Shaheed, who is a great player. He is an explosive player, but he's a Xavier Worthy out there. You see how the Chiefs are using Worthy. Even with Rasheed Rice down, even with the lack of receivers that they have, he's still not getting tons of target volume because they know what his role is. They know we're going to make explosive plays with him, whether it's down the field or getting him moving horizontally into space. We're going to get explosive plays to him, and that's his role. That's where Shaheed's best. You see him making these deep touchdowns and making these big plays, but when you ask him to make contested catches, he drops the ball because he's not a contested catch guy. But because we don't have any other receivers, he's the number two option, by far the number two option in the passing game. Because you have Olave, but after him, you have Mason Tipton, you have Foster Moreau, Juwan Johnson, whoever's out on the field. Taysom Hill is not really used much in the pass catching game. He's our number two option on offense when he's healthy. I'm probably even over Kamara at this point, at least in the goal line. But you have Kamara, who it's kind of weird how we use him receiving this year. You would think we would use him more, but I don't like how they utilize him that much in the receiving game, actually. It's just a bunch of low value targets. We struggle to get him the ball in space like we should, but beyond all that, it's a bad situation. And at the same time, you have a quarterback in Derek Carr who you know what he is at this point. And if he's not in that perfect situation where he can have a clean pocket, he's not going to be able to make those plays. So I think Derek Carr, I mean, the jury's out on him at this point. The Saints, I don't know that they'll look to replace him next year, maybe the year after, since unless we absolutely tank, get a top pick, and find a quarterback we really like in what looks like a weak quarterback class, I don't think there's going to be replacing him. Maybe Rattler is that guy, but it just sucks to watch this team because you know what you're going to get. And after all this hope, the first 2 weeks of the season where we beat bad teams, it's all circled back to looks like the exact same team that was out here last year.
This brings me to a thought that I usually have around this time of the year, and I like to call it: Is coaching an NFL team that hard? Is being a general manager in the NFL that difficult? Because they're watching the same shit that me and you see, and everyone else is watching this or will watch this sees. And I find it very odd that a million other people outside the organization can see something and say, this is bad, or this is that, this is that, this is this. But the head coach can't see it, won't see it. Same for the GM. Like, I don't understand decision making of a lot of guys in the NFL. And the best way that I can sum it up is I just believe these guys are trying to be too damn smart for their own good. Like Nick Sirianni, for example, I know you don't like him as coach. I don't doubt that he's a smart guy. I just feel like he just overthinks shit a little too much, and that's what caused him to make dumbass decisions. Dennis Allen, I don't think is a smart guy when it comes to anything outside of defense, which is why his decision making sucks. And I think in this era of analytics, it is kind of watered down coaching a little bit because now it's like they use that way too much as a damn crutch. I don't care if the analytics tell me go for it on 4th and 3 and we're on their 20-yard line and we're down by 2. I don't care. I'm going to kick the field goal because the score is 3-8, whatever. It's a low scoring game. What good is it for me to not take these points if my defense has been going out here killing the game? And then as far as with GMs, you look to sign Derek Carr. What in the hell did you expect Derek Carr to do for this team? You knew what this team needed. And it's the same thing I said with Sean Payton and why I heavily disliked his last year's year. Our receiving core was dog shit. And everyone on the planet knew we needed a receiver. But what in the hell will we go and do? Draft some edge rusher that's terrible. And it never made sense. And they say, you know what? Let's go sign an Emmanuel Sims. Let's go sign Jarvis Landry in the later years of their career. Yeah, that would be enough. And we wonder why Michael Thomas got ran into the damn ground and his ankles and his legs don't work anymore. For decisions like that, is coaching that hard, Dave? I don't think it's that hard. And maybe it's because we're great football minds and maybe we see things a little bit differently. But these type of games and these type of decisions really makes me believe that I can be an NFL GM or
Well,
I can
look,
be an NFL head coach.
I think that's a bad argument because coaching is hard. Like, it is hard to be a good NFL coach, obviously. Now, yes, there is like the nepotism, the like people getting in because they're a part of a certain tree or whatever, but on the whole, it's very hard to be an NFL head coach. Otherwise, you would see more people, or maybe even college, let's say, because there's more jobs in college. You'd say, oh, people would be able to get into that. Yes, a lot of it's how it's set up, how it's really hard to get into that world because it's such a closed circle, but it's hard. If we went out and we were the head coach, we would probably struggle. The thing that stands out with coaches and that really separates the good coaches from the bad coaches, and the thing that makes people think that, oh, I could be a head coach, I could do this, I could do way better than Dennis Allen, is the stupid decisions that you see. Dennis Allen is a great coach. He is a great defensive mind. He has a lot going for him. But as a decision maker, that is where he and a lot of coaches struggle, and that's what leads to conversations like this. So like you saying, "Oh, I could go be a coach. I could do better." You might not be able to do better on the whole coaching side, but the decision making is where it's concerning. When you have a guy like Dennis Allen, when you have a guy like Zach Taylor, when you have a guy like Nick Sirianni, when you have a guy like Brandon Staley is a perfect example of it, who got fired last year, where great coach, great mind, terrible, terrible decision maker. And those bad decisions, just time and time again, costed the Chargers until they finally let him go. This, this is what stands out with coaches. Good coaches know when to take risks and when to make these kind of decisions. Bad coaches will go for it on 4th and 8 after their third down play call was to take a deep shot instead of gain some yards to make the fourth down easier, which is eerily similar to what we did last week when we went for it on 4th and goal from, it's all right, the 7-8 yard line after losing yards on third down and becoming less manageable. Where if we kick a field goal, we're in a good position, but since we don't, those points come back to bite us. It's those bad decisions that coaches make that get them fired and makes them look like idiots when they might be a great coach and really know their stuff, but they're bad decision makers.
You know, maybe I drink a little too much medicine. I'm saying, oh, I believe I can do coaching. I still do think I can coach because I think I have enough X's and O's to do it. But I understand that coaching just isn't about decision making, but also a big part of coaching is decision making. Because in this game, right, you burn your timeouts because you don't get the call in on time. I mean, Kubiak, you should have the play in already. And I get it, you know, his first year doing it, but that's not rocket science. It's not rocket science to, all right, if we're going to go for on 4th down, which actually it tells me they did not have a plan. This was not a cohesive thought. This was not a, all right, so on this drive, no matter where we're at, we're going for it on 4th down. This was, yeah, you know what? We're in the red zone. I'm a defensive head coach. I believe in my defense to give me another stop. Why not? Let's go for on 4th down. That last play and the play last week on 3rd downs both showed me that we did not think about going for it on 4th down as the next play. It just kind of happened. That's not okay. And then this whole this whole debacle with just how the decisions are made in terms of personnel. I don't. I'll be honest. I don't like this two receiver shit from Kubiak. I don't. I don't like it. I don't like having really two receivers on the field and running 12 personnel. I don't like it. I don't. Maybe just because I like seeing, you know. three, four receivers out there. I don't know. I think that's just fun. But you're telling me from a personnel standpoint, as a GM, as a coach, you have seen years of film on Jawan Johnson and Foster Moreau, and you say, yeah, these are the two tight ends I want on the field. You look at Chris Olave and you look at Mason Tipton, and you say, I want Mason Tipton to have more targets. I don't. I don't. Jamal Williams is running back kickoffs for God's sake. I mean, I don't. I don't understand. Maybe maybe they know something I don't because they're actually in the organization. But from the outside looking in, those decisions don't work. And even the decision tonight, we only ran play action 4 times. Four. Derek Carr has less completions in 3 weeks, I think, out of play action than he did in the first 2 weeks. He had 15 in the first 2 weeks. He only had 14 in the last 3 weeks. So Kubiak has clearly went away from what we were doing the first 2 weeks. I think maybe he's having a little bit of overcorrection right now, and I think maybe he's starting to spiral a little bit because his little perfect world mastermind game plan is not going the way he wants, and he's kind of starting to flounder a little bit. And we get to see what type of coach he is for real. And we talked about it a couple weeks ago. Around week 5, 6, 7, 8, you are who you are to some extent. I think that plays more in the college ball than the NFL because it's 18 games. But you is gonna get harder and harder to flip this. And I mean, we're 2-3 right now. This is like the best record that Dennis Allen has had within 5 games in his entire career. And then once again, decision making as a GM, you look at a guy like Dennis Allen, you say, yes, this team can win with him. And you get up there on a press conference and say, yeah, well, he can possibly be a Hall of Fame head coach. Look at all these Hall of Fame head coaches that started out bad before. It's just ignorant. And I hate it because this team, I'm gonna be honest, probably may never go anywhere as long as Mickey Loomis is here, for example.
One of
Mickey
the,
Loomis is the godfather.
I think he might be the longest tenured GM in the league. If not, he's one of the top three, which you never see GMs stay around that long.
Any and look, he's in the will of Tom Benson. He's basically the Godfather. He can't go anywhere. He won't go anywhere. Gail Benson will never fire him. He has to retire on his own volition. And it's like what I say with Jerry Jones. At some point, you're just gonna have to force a motherfucker out because they are not helping your team. They're only hurting it. Uh, yes, Mickey Loomis is an absolute genius at cap management, but Kai Hartley can do that shit too. Terry Fontenot could do that shit, and you let Terry Fontenot walk to a division rival. And this team is being held back because the old guard won't let go.
That's the
And
thing.
until that happens, you're going to get the same result every senior. Because why in the hell does the receiving core looks the fucking same with different names as it's been since 2017? You got one guy that's really good, or two guys that's really good, and the rest of them are undrafted or just random names.
It's the
Why?
same old Saints.
It's the same thing. Why do you go and draft the same prototype at DN when they have not worked? Why do you draft O linemen and they don't work? Why are you still drafting for Raz when you haven't been hitting that much? Honestly, I mean, that draft class with Nick Saldivari and Isaiah Foskey and Brian Rizzi, that shit looks like a damn disaster. That is awful. And Mickey Loomis, he's had too many draft classes recently where you look at it like this is a fucking disaster.
Well, I'll take this
And
back even further. Before he had that incredible 2017 draft class that he hit it out of the park. Before that, people didn't like him as a GM because every year we would miss on our draft class. We go pick some bust. Just our first round pick, almost every year, you could pencil it in as either being a bust or being traded away to go make some other move. And he hits that 2017, and credit to him, he did a great job there. He did a great job building the team in that short span. But after that, it became the same thing again. We have a great draft class. We do all that, but what else? We make a few good draft picks here or there, but other than that, we don't really make any good additions. We go get Derek Carr, which I think was an interesting addition at the time. I thought, well, I liked the thinking behind it. We were a team that just barely missed the playoffs with Andy Dalton as our quarterback. So we were thinking, hey, if we go get a bona fide starting quarterback, we can be a better team. That's fair. It didn't work out, though. You probably brought in the wrong guy if you go look at his profile and what he is as a quarterback. I think it sucks that Jameis got injured by Devin White because maybe he could have done something here. But either way, I get it. We were going all in to win with Drew Brees, and we really should have won at least one more ring with him. Whether it's the year we lose to the Vikings, whether it's the year we get the no call on the PI, or whether it's the year that the Jared Cook fumble and all that. I think we had a really good team that year. That's just 1 year too late for Drew because by the end of the season, his arm was barely hanging on. And that just sucked to see because that was a team that easily could have won the Super Bowl if Drew Brees was a year or two younger. But it's just always frustrating seeing the same thing out of this team year in and year out. And, one thing that I was really thinking of while watching this game, you know what this team really needs? Michael
Oh
Thomas.
no.
We need a Michael Thomas receiver who gets open over the middle, is able to be open in those short to intermediate routes and move the chains for you. So,
But
Michael
see,
Thomas,
once again, that's decision making because in my brain, I still didn't see a reason to get rid of Michael Thomas. Maybe just
I,
because I'm a
I,
Michael
I,
Thomas
I do see a
apologist.
reason to get rid of him just because we're paying him a lot of money to not play. But the problem that I have is not that we got rid of Michael Thomas. The problem is we need a
We
Michael
didn't
Thomas type
replace
player.
Michael
We
Thomas.
get rid of Michael Thomas. We don't replace Michael Thomas. If you're going to have that profile player be one of the main parts of your offense, I mean, that was a staple, having a player like that who can get open on those short to intermediate routes, who can run those slants, who can run those in breakers, who can, over the middle of the field, get open and go win those catches. It's great that we had him. When we replaced him, that's fine. Go replace a guy that's oft injured, that's not playing free, that's being paid, but replace him. Don't just get rid of him and do nothing. Don't just sit on your hands like we constantly do. It's just the same thing with the Saints. It's like all these, we don't have a backup plan. We don't have anything. We just draft the same type of edge rushers. We just bring in the same every draft. It's the same. We go get an edge rusher or an O lineman round one, and they're the exact same profile every single time. We don't replace the receivers that we lose. Like you make all these moves, but it's just all the same. And you promote guys from within. You hire Dennis Allen to be your head coach. You keep Pete Carmichael as your offensive coordinator. It's like everything's just the same, and it's just a complacent organization. And I get that it's this whole family structure and all that, but no, you've got to make actual moves at some point if you want to be a real contending team. The window's closing now as all these players get older. And yes, this is a team that can get better when it gets healthy. There is some potential when Eric McCoy is healthy, when Demario Davis is healthy, when Pete Werner is healthy and not getting hurt in a Friday walkthrough, which, I mean, what are we doing in our Friday walkthroughs that we're having injuries like that in? But, I mean, this is just a team that, yes, there's potential there, but that potential is there if you make moves. Yes, we are in a quote unquote weak division. I think it's not as weak as people said, but it's still a winnable division. But it doesn't matter if you don't make the moves that you need to become a better team. And it's not just throwing up a prayer at this guy hits. No, it's making smart moves. And that's something that Mickey Loomis has really, throughout his whole career, struggled to do. He does terrible in most drafts. He had that one successful draft, but otherwise, it's just kind of all the same every single year. And it's just so frustrating.
it's even more frustrating because I always tell people this in regards to Mickey because I feel like a lot of people don't give Mickey Loomis the hate that he needs, the hate that he deserves, the hate that he has earned. I respect what he's done for the organization. He got us a ring. Great. Fantastic. That shit was 15 plus years ago. That's not going to cut it anymore. And like I said, the old guard won't let go. And I said, even when Drew Brees retired, we have to let him retire. Everything, everything about it. We can't try to find another Drew Brees. We can't like Jake Henry. We're saying, oh, or Ian Book. Oh, short quarterback, played in college for a little bit, winning guy. Oh, look, he good under center, play action. Whoa, what's the mind y'all of? Hell, Ian Book had a damn scar on his cheek. So like, and he sucked. He sucked ass. And then even when you look at the other quarterbacks that we draft, how the hell am I supposed to have faith that we can even draft? I mean, it's been since 1971 since we've drafted a quarterback in the first round. That is insane, unbelievable. And it's like you said, we don't ever have a backup plan. We never had a plan for Drew Brees leaving. If we did, you take Lamar Jackson. Let's be honest. But you don't. You believe that the win now move was to draft Marcus Davenport. Incorrect decision. And hindsight's 2020 though. And all these decisions from Mickey Loomis, if this was any other organization, he would have been fired 5, 6 years ago. But over here, it's like you said, this family structure, it's a bullshit way to go about building a team. And it's a way that makes you lose. Because at the end of the day, yeah, I get it's a family, but fuck the family. This is a business too. We're in the business of winning games. And you're not winning games. What you're doing is you're putting the team in eternal purgatory because you keep on getting the same players. How is this receiving core right now? For example, I keep bringing up the receiving core as an example, but how is this receiving core different right now than when we had Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, Tommy Lee Lewis? How is it different than when we had? Well, I can tell you how it's a lot different when we had Marquez Callaway, uh, Kenny Stills, Kevin White. I mean, that right there, I always say with the Saints, people should be fired if any one of your position groups get that fucking bad. That is gross negligence. That means that you did not do your job in building this team. If you allow a position group to get so bad, that is like not cutting your front lawn and the grass turns into vines and is wrapping the fucking house in the front, and now the house is starting to be disheveled because you didn't cut the grass in the front yard. How in the hell do you even think to say, you know what, having Lil Jordan Humphrey, Marquez Callaway, Tommy Lee Lewis, Kevin White, and Kenny Stills, this is exactly the type of offense. This is exactly the receiving core that can win some games. So how is these decisions, these receiving cores different than what we have now? Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Mason Tipton, Bud Means. No more A.T. Perry. You cut him. Wasted draft pick. Hell of a draft pick. There you go. Another waste. Um, how's it any different? It's not. And I just hate it. It's like you said, it's complacency. And the fact that Gail Benson, she got her head so far up her ass. Just happy to be here. Haha. Cool. I own the team. Great. Huh. Like, do something. Make some ultimatums.
I mean, I think the
And I
problem
feel
with
like
her is I don't
everyone's
know
too
that
safe, man.
I don't think she's ever going to be the one to make a move because look, you've got guys like Mickey Loomis. He's a great guy that's loved by everyone there. He's been there forever. It's time to move on from him. Just because it's just look, nothing against him personally. Yes, the whole family thing, but no. Like, if things haven't been working and you've been around there forever, it's time to freshen up the ideas, freshen up the vision, try something different because what you're doing now isn't working. The problem with Gail is she's kind of in a position where he was there before her. A lot of these other staff members, they've all been there before her. She's not really like she's no Jerry Jones, which I mean that's a good thing because you don't want a Jerry Jones, but she's not someone who's super plugged into the sports side of it where she's going to be making those kind of decisions. She's being advised by the people who are already there, and that's why everything is staying the exact same because those people are saying this is how we do it, this is how we operate. But they're at the same time the problem because how we've been operating isn't working and needs to change. So I just it's just so frustrating seeing this, and I don't know how it's going to change. I mean, if we have a, I think really the only way is if it turns into a disaster season, because all these seasons that the Saints always have, where they just barely miss the playoffs, where they're close, where they are almost they're on the cusp. They're gonna make it if we just improve a little bit. Some things go our way the next year. Well, no, we've now had 3 years in a row of that. Something's got to change. And hey, maybe we'll turn things around this season. Maybe we'll figure something out. There's still a lot of time in the season, but it's like we always say when you steal those wins early, you put yourself in a position. But when you lose games like this, we started off 2-0, that's great. But now, losing the next 3 games, you're a team that's trending down, that's now falling behind in your division. You need to get those wins soon because otherwise, you get to late in the season, you might go on a run, but it's too little too late. It's the same thing the Bengals are running into, same thing that you run into every year when you lose games, whether it's the Eagles game, the Falcons game that were winnable games, whether it's the Packers game last year where we had the game won and then just somehow decide, you know what, we don't want to win this game. You've got to win these kind of games, and if you don't, like something has to be done to go spark this team. And I think there's a lot of potential. I do think I agree with what you're saying about Kubiak. I think he is over adjusting a little bit, but you can really see the holes in his offense already. He can be a great offensive coordinator, but he's like an extreme version of the Shanahan offense. The whole entire scheme is predicated around the run game. We lead the league, highest run rate in the league. The Saints run the ball more than any other team, but they're not having much success the past 3 weeks. A lot of that's due to having a beat up offensive line that wasn't a very good offensive line in the first place. But if the run game's not working, where's the adjustment? Where's the quick passing game? Where's getting the ball out into space and letting playmakers make plays? Really, the whole offense is either we run the ball or we take a deep shot to Shaheed, and that's all there really is. There's nothing in between, nothing intermediate, and that's really the big hole. Yes, receiving core is a big issue. And it's like you said, we're running these 12 personnels with Foster Morrow and Juwan Johnson both seeing the field at the same time. But the problem is, who do you roll out at receiver? It's like we keep going back to the receivers. Well, that's a big problem. Chris Olave is a great player. Shaheed is a great gadget player. You have nobody else and nobody in between that. So if you want to line up your 3 wide receiver sets, what are you going to do? You're going to have Olave, Shaheed, and Tipton on the field. You're going to bring in who knows who else that you want to bring in on the field. So you really don't have that other guy. Who are your threats? Let's go to your defensive line. So the Saints roll out. We're going to roll out an 11 personnel. We're going to have Olave, Shaheed, Mason Tipton, and Foster Morrow because they seem like they want him to be the number one tight end for some reason. And we'll say that Alvin Kamara is out there on the field, even though for some reason in passing downs we keep putting Jamal Williams in a lot. But that's your personnel. What are you keying in on the defense when you see that personnel out there?
Oh, that's pretty easy. Well, I'm gonna have a safety up top because I do expect the deep ball with Shaheed. I do. Now knowing what I know about Olave, he's not going for the deep route. So my best corner's on him, and I might even not really necessarily bracket him, but I'm gonna definitely have someone on him and then a zone that can kind of sit in where his windows would be. I'm not concerned about Foster Moreau. I'm definitely not concerned about Juwan Johnson. And as for Alvin Kamara, well, I don't really like a linebacker on him, depending on the route. Maybe we do some trades. If he goes out for a wheel, we trade it off to maybe a nickel type player. If he stays inside on like a Texas route or an in route, block and release, yeah, I can throw a linebacker there, kind of sit in that space. But really, what I'm trying to say is, I'm taking out Olave, I'm covering the deep ball, and really everything underneath is going to be underneath. Alvin Kamara is going to be underneath. Foster Moreau's going to be underneath. I think I might be able to just man up fucking Mason Tipton. Go ahead and show me that you can win, buddy. Go ahead and do it. And then, for Jawan, I mean, he decoy route at that point. Um, it's not hard. It's not. And then I can even say this: why do I need to do all that when I know that my front four can probably get there anyway? I don't have to do much on the back end if my front four is getting in the face of Derek Carr. As a matter of fact, you get in the face of Derek Carr, I don't have to worry about a lot of it. I don't even have to worry about Shaheed. I really don't have to worry about anyone because he's gonna panic and throw it away or do some stupid shit. So, as a defensive guy, stopping the offense isn't difficult right now. Um, that's what I would do. But I do want to bring up something, and it's kind of repeat of what we've been saying, but I want to make it quick. This team is so predictable. It's really bad when for over a decade I've been able to predict the plays that we're gonna do. It's bad when since really I started watching the Saints, I can't remember a time we were ever good at stopping tight ends. Why is that always been the issue? Why is it that we get a really good receiver and then we just surround him with bullshit and say, "All right, man, work your magic. You all we got, but you're that good, right? Go ahead, go earn your money." Why is that? What happened to the Marcus Colston and Devery Henderson and Robert Meacham and Lance Moore receiving core? What the hell happened to that?
Well, that's the problem right there, that receiving core. Because that receiving core was a great receiving core. But look at the profile of the guys. You have your best receiver there, seventh round pick, like 4 picks off of being Mr. Irrelevant. You've got a bunch of other, you don't have any high draft capital, high free agent capital. And it worked. And it worked for 2 reasons. It worked, one, because they were actually good players and we actually did a great job of talent evaluating to bring them in. And the other reason it worked is we had Drew Brees, and Drew Brees could make that work, right? Well, who do we not have now? Drew Brees. But we still try and make those same kind of receiving cores work when it's not going to work when you don't have a Drew Brees quarterback that can't make them successful. Look what happened when any of those guys left the Saints. When Kenny Stills leaves and he turns into nothing. When Jimmy Graham, who looked like he was arguably the best tight end in the league with probably only Gronk ahead of him, he leaves and he turns into nothing. It's it's just the Saints. The Saints now are that team that those players left and went to. They're not the Drew Brees Saints, but they think that they still are, and they think that they can
Tell
still
you what,
operate like that.
you really do a really great job of picking up what I'm putting down because that's what I was fishing for. With me starting the whole thing and then ending up with that specific receiving core, that's what I was trying to fish for. The fact that once again we keep doing the same thing and we keep believing we can get away with shit like this because we had Marcus Coulson, because we had Mark Ingram, who was a top pick. So right, we spent a top pick on a running back. Great, we do that with Alvin Kamara. Basically, we believe, all right, you know what? We had Drew Brees. who was, I guess you can say, a big frigid signing, but I mean, people were not, he had the injury with his shoulder. People were thinking, oh, he's not really going to play. Really, it was just outbidding the Dolphins. For Derek Carr, a QB who people are like, yeah, he's good, he's okay, but like, do we really want him? And all you had to do was outbid one team. So kind of a similar situation. We I like to think about the Saints as the couple that always shops in the value bin or shops at Goodwill. Most times, it's going to be nothing but junk. But sometimes you might find some crazy ass shit that's worth a lot of money, and all you spent on it was like $5. But how often does that happen? And that's the way that this team operates. They keep operating with this idea. Like I said, once you get the old guard out of here, that gets out of that mindset, yo, stop with you know what? We can have one guy receiver, and then let's just go ahead and evaluate lower end talent. Because let's look at the receiving core, right? Cedric Wilson. He's not really a journeyman, but he's a wide receiver three at best on really any other team.
He
Mason
was a
Tipton.
receiver that was let go by his previous two
Yes, the
teams.
receiver that was let go. You got Cedric. No, so you have Mason Tipton, undrafted free agent out of Yale. Yale. Yale.
Smart guy.
Smart guy. Ryan Fitzpatrick, I guess. But Yale. Who who the hell do you know that came out of Yale and was good at football? Okay. You got Bub Means. I ain't gonna put no disrespect on Bub because I was my teammate at Tech. But you spent a fifth round pick on him. Okay. You had A.T. Perry, who was, I believe, a 6 or 7 round guy. Maybe I'm tripping. Was he fifth, sixth, seventh? Either way, late round guy. Doesn't work out. He was supposed to be your Michael Thomas. Well, he sure as hell looking like his Michael Thomas too. He's off the team. Um, you have, who am I missing? Cedric Wilson, Bud Means. Oh, Rashid Shaheed, undrafted free agent out of Weber, Weber State,
Yes.
right? Yes,
And he hit, to be fair.
and he did hit. And then Chris Olave, who is from the Ohio State University, uh, that's your guy. So I mean, in what world on paper, as a personnel maker, as a team builder, do you look at that and say, mm, yes, this is a winning core, and it's the value bin, man, and the value bin has gotten us clipped so many times where we get no production. Because, like, look at, for example, Tommy Lee Lewis in the no call game. Why in the fuck is Tommy Lee Lewis, of all people, even on the field? Because Tommy Lee Lewis is your wide receiver three. Hell, probably even your wide receiver two. Imagine if any other receiver that was worth anything was on that field. Maybe they give us a call. And then you look at the D line. Look at our D tackle room. It's full of a bunch of guys who are second stringers or just lower tier defensive linemen on their former teams. Shout out to Bank though, he's the GOAT. So I ain't talking about him. And then your corners, that is the one thing that I will give this coaching staff. They can find some fucking DBs. I'm perfectly fine with the DBs. I'm outside of Debo and his DPIs. A DPI, that's his name. Paulson, a DPI. Might as well be his new name. I'm coining it, y'all. Um, but the value bin, man. I'm tired of shopping in the value bin. I'm tired of trying to find diamonds in the rough. Why don't you just go fucking get a diamond? Instead of trying to find a diamond in the local creek, go find a diamond in the diamond mine. You know what I mean? Like, that's where diamonds are. Go evaluate these players in places that have good players. I'll give them credit. You found one and she. We're always going to find a couple guys because that's what we love to do. But like, it's just a weird way of going about it. And then we like to draft guys who have injury issues because no one else is going to. And hey, we think we we think our illustrious medical staff, the illustrious medical staff of the New Orleans Saints, because the New Orleans Saints medical staff is famous for never having any injuries, right?
Never.
So never. So yeah, we can fix them. We can handle that. Yeah, we can deal with whatever. I mean, we sat here. The Saints gaslit us into not drafting Tajay Spears because they say he has no damn ACLs. But Kendre Miller with a fucking what pulled hammy has been out since fucking July. I mean, it's amazing to me just how the way we operate. And then of course, oh good God, I ain't even gonna bring up when we had Jairus Bird on the fucking team, Kobe Fleener, because I bring those names up because when we shop in the value bin, we always say, you know what? Nope, we're not gonna shop in the value bin no more. We're gonna go out, we're gonna try to spend some money somewhere. But instead, we go to a dealership and we end up buying a lemon of a car
Buying Brandon Browner.
because like Brandon Browner, Jairus Bird, and Kobe Fleener, guys who we paid big money for and hadn't done shit. And it's always another thing with our decision making too, with who to let go and who to not. We chose Trey Hendrickson. We chose to let Trey Hendrickson go over paying him. Paying him would have been the right move. We chose to let Marcus Williams go. You know what? Marcus Williams is ranked 75 out of 75 on PFF right now for safety, so maybe that worked out. But you let Mark Ingram go for a little bit. I think Mark Ingram could have gave us about another 1 or 2 years and be perfectly fine. Well, running back struggled a little bit after that. Um, you decide to not go get another receiver next to Michael Thomas. You decide to not go get offensive line free agents, but keep trying to draft guys like Trevor Penning. You say, you know what? Yeah, we didn't pay Trey Henderson, but don't worry, we can replace Trey Henderson. We can just draft Marcus Davenport. We can just draft Peyton Turner. Guys from smaller, I'm gonna say smaller schools, but I mean UTSA is a G5, so sure. Fun fact, everybody, I actually did play against Marcus Davenport. That's kind of showing my age a little bit, ain't it? I did play against Marcus Davenport. I seen him play personally in Joe IS Stadium in Ruston, Louisiana. And not one time did watching that guy did I say, yes, 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 the Saints will spend 2 first round picks on this guy. But that's what happened. Um, just a weird team, man. Just a weird team. I've been talking so long, but I'm gonna have to cut myself off. Just a weird team, man. That's what I'm gonna leave it at. Very weird team. Things have to change. The way of thinking has to change. The decision making has to change. Personnel that we evaluate has to change. Just the overall, just business operations have to change. Because if it doesn't, then we're going to be here 10 years later here on DBG saying, man, why the hell did we let that tight end go for 150 yards last week? Why the hell did we go for it on fourth down? Why the hell is our wide receiver two an undrafted so and so from St. Mary's School of the Blind? You know, why is why is a running back who's a second string who probably runs a 4.8 now returning kicks? Things like that. Food for thought. Food for thought.
It is, but I mean, we don't want to be like the Saints, so we're gonna stop just going over the same old stuff, and just keep going with it. But look, at the end of the day, I mean, this is the Saints, and so what do you expect? We are gonna wrap up all this Saints talk instead of keep yapping. But I think to close it, I want to draw back to that thought exercise that we did, where we went through the personnel and had your defensive mind think of how you defend it. And your big takeaway was, wow, that is really easy to defend. And I mean, yeah, that's really what it came down to. It was easy to defend, and there really wasn't that much to it at all. So it's just That's where the Saints are at. And I think there is room that they can improve, but they just need someone else to come. They need the O line to get better, and yes, they need Carr to get better, but the most addressable thing that can be done is bring in a receiver. And I'm not saying it has to be Devontae Adams, but you need somebody that can move the chains because we don't have that. It's like you said, you have Chris Olave's going to do what he does, but you just take him away. Shaheed, he's pretty much just good for a deep shot, and if he doesn't go for a deep shot, then you trust your defense to cover him because he's not a contested catch guy. And then who else? You've got Foster Moreau slash Juwan Johnson. That's going to be underneath. You take that away. Mason Tipton, who's your wide receiver three, it seems like. Well, until he proves otherwise, just go man up on him. Just do whatever. You trust him to take him away. Then you have Alvin Kamara, who really has just been just kind of there for dump offs, and he's kind of out on a lot of these third downs, it seems like, because they want to bring in Jamal Williams to help pass protect because they don't trust our O line's ability to pick up pressure. And if you get pressure, Derek Carr will fold. So it's a very it's predictable. It's like we were talking about with the Jets earlier, where they're very predictable. You know how you can beat the Saints offense, and they need to find a way to adjust to that. And I think part of that is they need to bring in, just like the Bills, they need to bring in another receiver and change up that personnel. But I think that's enough Saints talk for now because we've really covered everything that we can cover. I mean, we could keep going on and on and on about it, but we've covered all that we can cover. Is there any other games that you want to talk about? Anything else that stood out to you from this week?
I guess a little Falcons Bucks. I watched a good bit of that. Um, Kirk Cousins, man, 500, I think 509 yards, 4 or 5 TDs. It's frustrating. Kirk Cousins did that, and Derek Carr is backpedaling, throwing rainbow floaters to into an interception. I mean, Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Kyle Pitts, Tyler Algier, Kirk Cousins, they all had great games. And I hate to say it, is Mike Evans a Hall of Famer? He might be. Maybe his jacket is real. Maybe it is. Um, just a consistent guy. You know what you're gonna get out of him. But I hate the fact that Atlanta won because this once again puts the Saints in a precarious situation where a team that lost is gonna try to fight extra hard next week, and we just so have me playing that team. And they have something to play for. They got Hurricane finna ravage their lands. So it's tough. But shout out to both quarterbacks in the Bucks and Falcons game. It was great quarterback play on both ends. Um, I will ask the question of what in the hell is the point of Bijan Robinson? I ain't gonna lie. Seems like he's still being underutilized. I mean, you draft the guy with a top 10 pick. Tyler Algier had 1,000-yard rookie season as like a low draft pick or undrafted guy. I can't remember what he is. But the offense for the Falcons seems to work better when Tyler Algier is the running back. And it's odd. Um, that's really all I got for those two. Probably the only other one that I think would be worth talking about is probably the Cowboys and Steelers game last
Yeah, I
night.
think we'll
Shout out to
get to
that
that, but
Prescott.
I do want to give some thoughts on the Falcons Bucks game. I do want to give some credit to the Falcons. They're a team where we said that they're not a very good team. Well, they're a team where they're figuring things out here. They are figuring out that, hey, we can do this. Like, we are a team that has talent. We have a lot of new pieces that are all trying to mesh together, and you're seeing the team progress throughout the season. And that's why these early wins that they've been able to get, these early win against the Saints, early win against the Eagles, now an early win against the Bucks. although this is now starting to get to the point where they're figuring things out. They're really showing what they can do. And that's the thing. You steal those wins early, and then as you figure it out as the season goes along, you have the platform that you have built up. So they're now a team that I think are squarely in the race for the division, and that's why you got to win those games early. But for the Bucks, I don't really know what I want to say about this Bucks game because it was just weird. It's like their really their defense just fell apart that game and let Kirk Cousins just absolutely cook. I think that may just be a bit of an issue that this Bucks team has where they have a really good run defense, as you saw how they mostly have shut down teams running the ball against them, but you're able to attack their pass game. And this is kind of like the opposite of what happened in the Lions game where they played, where the Lions knew that they had that weakness in the pass game, so they threw the ball a ton, but it didn't work for them with Jared Goff because they're a running team. The Falcons show that they're a team that if they air it out a bunch like this, they can have success, and they took advantage of the mismatch that they had.
Man, isn't it crazy how many times we keep saying the phrase stealing wins? That was a great phrase for us to do first time we did this, man. Stealing wins. Could you argue that maybe the Saints stole some wins? Drinking game, everybody. Um, I love how the Saints are just always on my mind, even
Well,
when
no,
we're
I think
talking about other teams.
I think the argument is that the Saints just played two bad teams the first 2 weeks, and we're really seeing that.
Man, damn, man, damn. I thought it was, maybe it was real, but it wasn't real. It wasn't real, man. It wasn't. Um, maybe the Bucks and Falcons are better. You know what? I can't say that. I can't say that. I don't think they have any injuries that are like as game changing as we do. But y'all already know when Kelvin goes silent, it's a bad thought.
It just
It's a
sucks
bad,
that
bad thought.
we're now behind the Falcons, behind the Bucks, behind the eight ball in a bad position, and this is just where the team's at this point. But shout out to them for falling into this point. I think we should get to that Cowboys game because I mean that if you were a fan of the Cowboys or the Steelers growing up, sure this game felt like a bit of a throwback for you because that really was just old school defensive slugfest. Defenses were just making plays. Both offenses looked bad, and it had been pouring rain before even. So really old school game right there for you.
Also, first quarterback in NFL history to throw a touchdown on two different days in the same game. Dak Prescott, everybody.
That's actually
Very
kind of
interesting
surprising that
stat.
that's never happened.
I guess. Also, this was a record. Yesterday, Sunday, was the longest day of football because the Vikings game started at what 9:30 in the morning. We didn't finish that last game until about 1 a.m. So this was the longest day of NFL football in NFL history. So record-breaking day. If y'all watch college football, Saturday was crazy too. We had like 4 or 5 top 10 or top 15 teams lose. Crazy.
Yeah, I know
But
we
crazy
don't
weekend
really
still.
cover much college football, but that was an absolutely crazy game. Vanderbilt getting their first win ever in 60. That was their 61st game against a top five team and their first win. You have Arkansas beating Tennessee. SEC is wide open. You have USC losing to Minnesota. Meanwhile, there's just a lot of upsets. Crazy weekend. Crazy weekend all around for football.
And then of course the Saints losing on Monday Night Football. What a way to wrap it up. What a way to wrap up the weekend festivities with that. Uh but it was one of those games that I looked at, and I'm watching Justin Fields because that's why I watch the Steelers. I'm curious about Justin Fields. Justin Fields, I'm still so confused on him. I really, really am because he misses some throws, but man, his talent to me just still kind of jumps off the page. I'm like, this guy, feel like he has something to him that's there, but you just got to get it out. And
Putting him in a good situation.
I'm like, is the Steelers even? I mean, compared to the Chicago situation, he was like, yeah, this is leagues better, but I'm not going to say the Steelers are really that much better. Not that. What I mean by that is, are they really a good situation? That's what I mean by that. I feel like he could be better. I feel like having George Pickens run his routes half-ass like he does, and then having shit, I don't even know who their wide receiver two is. Well, Pat Fryermuth, I guess. I mean, is that really better? The offensive line is better, but you have kind of a non-existent run game with Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, and your receiving core ain't the best. So I mean, like, and Arthur Smith is your OC. So is it even really that great of a situation? I mean, like I said, compared to the Bears, it is a much better situation. But
Yeah,
even
that's the
then,
thing.
it's
It's
like
not a great situation, but it's a better situation.
it is better. It is better. And I look at Justin Fields, I'm like, I don't know what's next for him. Oh, really a better question is what's next for Russell Wilson? Because after what are they now, 3-2? I think
Yeah, they're 3-2.
If you're a Steelers fan, after 5 games being 3-2 with Justin Fields as your quarterback, I think you're a happy camper. I think you are because I feel like Steelers fans didn't even really expect. I feel like they maybe expected maybe 2 wins, maybe 1 win, but you got three. You got three, and you played some tough teams.
I don't know.
Now, of course, you lose to the
For
Cowboys,
me,
but
it's a weird situation where you're happy because you're better than you thought you would be, but you're upset because you lose to a Cowboys team that I'd say that you should have beaten. And all of a sudden, you're looking at, hey, it went from we're leading the division to now we're tied with the Ravens, who are a much better team than us. I still think that there is a path for the Steelers to win this division because Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season. He's going to fight, and AFC North divisional games are weird. You could always have the Steelers go steal a game, maybe steal 2 games against the Ravens that they really shouldn't win, but they managed to steal. But it's a tough situation because they're kind of like the Saints, just a little bit better, where you always know what they're going to be, and for the Steelers, what they're going to be is just a little bit better than the Saints, but still not a team getting over the hump.
you have to feel good though for Justin Fields. I'm happy for Justin Fields. He seems like he's in a better spot. Um, like I said, I don't know if they're gonna go with Russell Wilson. Mike Tomlin is a guy who usually goes with the hot hand. But I'm also interested to see this team with Russell Wilson at the helm. You know what I mean? But like, are we ever gonna get it? I don't know. And I agree. This is a team that's I mean, they're gonna win, but being a Steelers fan has gotta be weird because you are kinda in that same position as the Saints. You haven't won anything since when was the last one? 2008? 2010? 2010. I think they won it after us, right? Yeah. It was them and then Green Bay. I
Yeah,
think I got that right.
I
Um,
believe so. Yeah, and then they lost to Green Bay in that one.
yeah. So you haven't done really anything since 2011. The Saints haven't done anything really since 2009. Now, of course, they've had great teams. Obviously, in 2018, 2019, Steelers lost to uh the Saints in a very close battle, a battle that affected playoff seeding very heavily for both teams. Um, Antonio Brown was still on that team. I think it was 2018. No, I don't fucking remember. I think it was 2018. It was one of those years where both teams were good and Juju Smith-Schuster was good. Well, I can't say that. Juju Smith-Schuster damn near put up 100 and something yards. I think he did have over 100 yards on the Saints tonight. Maybe this is 2017, 2018. I don't know. But um, you're a team that's gonna be picking somewhere between 12 to 20 in the draft. So you're just outside of that point to where you can trade up to get someone in the top 10, and you're too far to even want to say, yeah, we want to trade down out of the first round. So you're just in that middle point, that purgatory spot that I always say I hate. Uh, you're sitting there with an OC that's not particularly great. You got two running backs that aren't particularly great. You got George Pickens, who I guess is young boy if he played football. I mean, he's hit or miss. He seems like he's gonna do what the fuck he wants to do. Uh, your defense is gonna be great. You're the Steelers. They always have great defenses. But I mean, they do sound like an AFC Saints team. They really do. And for them, it's like if you're a fan of that team, like how do you feel the same way that Saints fans feel about, Mickey Loomis? Like, hey, Mike Tomlin's been here for a long time. Yes, he's done some great things, but maybe it's time for a change. Do they feel like us in terms of okay, we need a receiver or we need a better weapon here, we need better this? I mean, where do you go if you're the Steelers? I mean, I don't really see them being a big free agent market, right? Much like the Saints. I don't know what their cap space situation is, but I can't imagine it's extremely high. It probably is. I don't know. And you're sitting there in a very tough AFC. And it's like, what what are we doing? And you let Deontay Johnson walk. I mean, I just don't know. I don't know what the Steelers. I mean, if there's any team that's sitting there in mid or slightly above it, it's probably them. And they give me strong Jeff Fisher Rams vibes, low key. Like, man, the pinnacle of the perfection of balance. 8-8. you know? 7-9. 9-7. Just right there in between those margins. And as for the Cowboys, if you're a fan of them, are you happy? I mean, Mike McCarthy and company still did things to lose you this game. Uh, you grinded out a win against a tough team to play in Pittsburgh during the rain. So it's a
I
grinded
mean,
out football game, especially when you don't have running backs.
I
You
mean, I
know,
think the running game did actually look a bit better, but I think that's really what it boils down to. At the end of the day, a win's a win, but I don't know if I'm happy if I'm a fan of either team because both teams just looked bad. Both teams looked like they have big question marks, and I mean, it's just interesting, but a win's a win, and for the Steelers, it probably would have been even bigger with how wide open the AFC is right now. Like we mentioned earlier, there is 4 3-2 teams in the AFC. You have the Bills, who are either winning their division or missing the playoffs because they're a bad team if they can't win that division. You have the Steelers sitting at 3-2, the Ravens sitting at 3-2, and you got the Broncos sitting at 3-2. Surprisingly, so you have wild card spots open, but it's a wide open race. But you just need to pick up those wins now. It's gonna be interesting to see how that all shakes out. That I think that's definitely been the theme this year, though. There's been a lot more parity. You now have zero completely defeated teams and two undefeated teams. You feel like that never happens this early in the season, so you usually have some sort of like just teams that absolutely suck, and then you have some teams that are just there blowing away the league. You don't really have that this year. Like, there's no prohibitive favorite. There's no Chiefs this year that are the overwhelming favorite to win the Super Bowl. So I think it's gonna be really interesting seeing this season play out. But I think we really covered all that we have to cover. Do you have anything you want to say in closing?
Devontae Adams, if you are somehow, some way listening to this, I know the Jets and the Saints did not put on the best of showings on a national scale. Both teams getting basically a prime time, or both teams getting a prime time game. But let me tell you something, man. Do you want to play with a perkhead, old guy who his family don't even like, or do you want to play with the good Christian family man that you went to college with? You go on family vacations with him.
Just
You
disregard everything that we said earlier about Derek Carr. Great quarterback to play
did
with. You know that.
great court. He's a
But
great family man.
such a great quarterback that you need to demand that the Raiders take on a huge chunk of your salary in that trade.
Or better yet, hey, who needs all that money, man? You got Taco Bell endorsement. Look, water under the
You got
bridge.
a Taco Bell in your house.
Yeah, you got Taco Bell in your house. Look, man, we can get that Taco Bell. Matter of fact, we get a Popeyes in your house down here. But you like the sound of that, Devontae? We get Brothers Chicken in there. You know what I'm saying? So I say, and this is me not being biased at all. I say, look, shit on the Jets. Also, you don't want to play on MetLife Field. You don't want to do that. You're a receiver.
Mm-mm.
That sounds like a damn nightmare. Imagine playing on MetLife Field for the rest of your career.
Won't be much of a career plan on that field.
Won't be, yeah, it might be just this year and that's it. Hell, Aaron Rodgers played one snap on that goddamn field, and his Achilles went goodbye. So, hey man, look. Also, who the hell wants to go catch balls in the damn cold? It gets cold up there, man. You know. So you was up there in Green Bay. You know how it is.
You know where
Now
it
you
doesn't
went to
get
L.A.
cold? In a
Yeah, like
nice
you go
climate
to L.A.
controlled dome.
Yeah, you're in a nice climate controlled dome. And you know what? It rains a lot here, but guess what? We got a dome. And that dome has withstood hurricanes. We get those too. So you know you're playing in a very nice, safe spot. And if you want to go watch a
I
basketball
mean, New
game, you can
Orleans is
just walk
known for
right across the
safety.
archway.
It's like you said.
Exactly. And think about it. The potholes that are there too, man, that's just like an obstacle course when driving. That's fun. Man, you'll enjoy your time here. You get good food, man. You get good food, good people. People gonna love you here. They're gonna love you. People in LA don't understand. Well, Las Vegas, they don't understand what they have. People in New York, they're not gonna appreciate you. You come here, you see how we treated Michael Thomas before he, you know, we loved him so much. You can come here and be loved, or you can go with the
Face the New York media.
yeah, face the New York media, and then once you leave from in front of the media, you gotta go look at Mister sit in the dark room and do ashwagandha for 3 days straight in this dark room and take perks all day, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, sounds like a no-brainer to me, Devontae. Um, I would also like to
I'm
add,
sure you're listening right now.
I also like to add, we lost to the Chiefs. Um, the Jets lost to the Vikings. Now, yes, both teams are undefeated. Yes, but one team did not make the playoffs last year. One team won the Super Bowl. Saints played the ones that beat the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl, and I felt like that game was winnable, even as shitty as we played. I don't feel like that Jets game was winnable at any given point, even though how shitty they played. So hey man, we fight a little harder over here. You know what? And then think about it too. You get better as a person too, as a player. Because instead of going against weak ass Sauce Gardner at practice, you go against a certified lockdown goon named Marshawn Lattimore, the silent killer. He don't walk around wearing a big ass chain that say sauce. He just show up to work and lock down motherfuckers. You can get better too. I know you like competition. And you know what? Hey man, we can make this feel like Las Vegas if you like Las Vegas. We got your quarterback and we got a weird offense too. So that's all I have to say. Devontae, come on down to Saints. Um, take a pay cut. Maybe donate the rest of it to something
Or
in New
don't even
Orleans. We
take
need
a
that.
pay cut. Just make the Raiders pay for it.
Yeah, yeah.
But hey, that's
So
enough
that's all
yapping,
I
though.
got. Please show up, Devontae.
But yeah, we've talked for long enough. I mean, I think we've pretty much covered all of it. Saints suck. The first 2 weeks were fun. Devontae, you can come save it. You got anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
No, that's it for me.
Well, it's another week down. Hopefully next week Saints will get back in the win column, and hopefully next week we'll be joined by special guest Preston.
Don't count on it.